Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was godlike being in rwby harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by NeonZangetsu and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The gods must be crazy. You'll never take me alive. The new boy had come to the orphanage. Cinder watched them from afar as one might a dangerous animal, wary of what they might say or do. She'd heard him long before she saw him. As far as first impressions went, it was certainly memorable. Loud and mouthy, with blue eyes, striking blonde hair and whiskered cheeks, he made his presence known from the first. Clad in ruined orange-blue rags, he nevertheless fought the adults every step of the way, thrashing and spitting like a scalded cat on meth. How could someone so short put up such a fight? There was a fire in his eyes, a spark of defiance few had when they first came here. One they lost over time. Was he a faunus? He didn't look like one, but those whiskers no, it didn't matter. He wouldn't be here long. The loud ones never lasted. He would be no different. Someone would take him or he'd disappear like the rest. Or those who tried to escape. They never got very far. Either the weather got them, the caretakers, or other things. Dark, nasty things that stalked the night. Cinder didn't want to think about those things. She was only 7, after all. Instead she watched as the adults finally grew weary of the boy's struggles and knocked him out. One of them threw him in an empty room and left him there. They didn't even bother to lock the door. Poor boy landed on his head. There was a horrible crack. He didn't get up again. They looted his sleeping body, took what few valuables he had on him, and left him there. Even then, Cinder didn't dare approach until they were gone. She shuffled forward a little, hiding herself behind a wall until she was certain they were gone. This trial was a cruel place, and this orphanage was much the same. The newcomer would learn, in time. Some might say that the gods must be crazy to allow such savagery. Cinder didn't think so. This was the way of the world. The strong did as they pleased. The weak suffered. She didn't like it of course, but neither did she have the power to change it. Only the strong could change the way of this world. Her parents had tried to do that. At least, she liked to imagine they had. That they might come back for her someday even if she couldn't even remember their faces anymore. Here, the strong thrived and the weak wished for death. If you didn't show strength, you were prey for the bigger kids. Prey. That was the worst possible thing you could be here. No one respected you when you were prey. They pulled your hair, beat you, stole your shoes, your food, your pride. So long as you made yourself seem big and mean or too much trouble to be bothered with, they'd let you alone for the most part. It was something of an unspoken rule here. One that was sometimes broken perhaps, but still, it was better than lawlessness. Still. Cinder flicked a wary glance towards where the boy lay. He wasn't bleeding at least, but he'd be cold in those rags. Night was fast approaching, and winter with it. He'd freeze if left alone. She remembered her first winter here. It had been unpleasant. Back then, the mercy of an older orphans had saved her from a frigid graven frozen to death themselves. Her jaw clenched at the memory. Leave him. She hissed at herself. You don't even know him. Her mind said one thing. Her heart, still young and untainted, said another. Before she knew it, her feet carried her back to her quarters. She snatched up her spare blanket thin though it was and returned quickly. The worn blue cloth felt impossibly sparse beneath her fingers, but still she held to it, trusting in what little warmth it might offer. Glancing about to make sure none witness her deed, she darted in and draped the blanket around the boy's prone form. A bit of hay stolen from the stables served as an adequate pillow, propping up his battered head. He didn't move in the least. Didn't even react to her presence. It only took a few minutes and then she was away, racing back the way she'd come. The sleepy voice followed her. Thanks. Cinder missed a step. Her face flamed. You're welcome. Her good deed done, the fiery little girl grabbed a broom and scampered off to do her evening chores. It wouldn't do to be caught out by the caretakers. They were barely feeding her already. She didn't want to catch an extra beating, let alone lose what little rations they were giving her. She was alone here, after all. No one to back her up, no one to defend her, no one to put a good word in for her. She had no friends. She would never have any friends. A lone tear ran down her cheek as she shuffled off to work, resigning herself to another long night. Nothing would change here. An act of kindness wouldn't alter anything. This was her destiny. Or so she thought. Vivid back. Cinder leaped with all her might, straining for the loaf of bread dangling above her. So close, and yet so far. Cruel laughter rose in her ears as she missed. Undaunted, she lunged up again. Her fingers brushed the food but a moment before her tormentor yanked it out of her reach. Fury flashed through her, white-hot and vicious. She stamped it down, refusing to feed the fire within. She was better than this. She'd not fall for their taunts and tricks. She refused. "Aw," a rough voice drawled at her, "you were so close that time." Keep trying. She hopped in place once more, to no avail. Quit it, Bert. You've got your own food. That's mine. Is it now? Her tormentor dangled her afternoon meal just out of reach, grinning like a loon. Doesn't look that way to me. Right, boys? Laughter spilled through the air as she dove and missed again. Bert was one of the older boys here at the orphanage and the cruelest by far. There was a reason he'd not been adopted as of yet. Bastard had a mean streak as long as she was tall. Lanky and pale, his pale face was oft twisted by a sneer pimply mess framed by shaggy red hair. He was everything Cinder hated about this god's forsaken place. She couldn't be bothered to remember the names of his two cronies. One was short, the other was also short. They weren't even worthy of recognition. They could be dumb and dumber for all she cared. Usually, they let her be, but today they'd chosen her as their latest victim. She knew why. Her one act of kindness, and of course, someone saw it. She had no one but herself to blame. Give it back already. The bully sneered. Maybe I will if you give me your blanket or lick my feet, Fall. Cinder grit her teeth until she felt a molar crack. She loathed her last name. It wasn't even hers. The boys had bestowed upon her as an insult. Because she always fell to others. To the caretakers, to the other children, to the dogs, even herself. Clumsy, clumsy Cinder Fall. She was no one. She was nothing. Her temper began to boil, an angry cauldron seething just beneath a loose lid. Hot. No, if this was fair. Hotter. Why couldn't they let her be? Hottest. Don't, she swallowed, voice breaking, don't call me that. Aw, what's wrong? Bert saw it and gave her shove. Gonna cry, miss no parents. Cinder wanted to. She really, truly did. But she didn't dare. Bert and his bullies would never let her live such weakness. To shed tears here was to admit he could get to her. And if he could get to her, that meant he owned her. No one owned her. She was a slave to no one. Not the caretakers, not her temper, and certainly not these boys. At least I have some. She whispered. It was the wrong thing to say. Hear that, boys? Bert hefted the loaf higher. Little Miss Fall still thinks her parents are coming back for her. Ain't that a hoot? Cinder twitched as her fragile hope came under attack. Stop. What's wrong? Can't handle the truth. You're no better than us, Fall. No, and here he sneered, thrusting his visage against hers. You're even worse. Your parents threw you away. They didn't want you. Didn't need you, didn't care about you. Hurts, doesn't it? Stop it. Her dream began to buckle. A house of glass that was even now shattering. Angry tears became scalding steam in Cinder's eyes. Something shifted in her very soul. She hated them. All they did was talk and talk and talk when they really knew nothing at all. They lorded their strength over everyone else while the rest of them starved. No. No more, she refused to starve. That's right. Bert shouted over her. You're no one. Nothing. Not even worth a loaf of bread. Something dark and angry twisted inside of the little girl's glass heart. Cinder's head snapped up. I said stop. Wind palms flared red and she shoved Bert in the gut. Hard as she possibly could. It shouldn't have done anything. Something was screaming. Oh. Cinder realized belatedly. It's me. I'm the one screaming. Bert pitched back with a yowl, clutching at his stomach as if he'd had too much to eat. The telltale scent of burned fabric and flesh filled the afternoon. His cronies stopped laughing. Perhaps had she been in her right mind, Cinder might have realized what she'd just done. What she just inadvertently unlocked in her rage. But she wasn't in her mind. Everything was burning. Her eyes, her mind, even her hands. Was this her semblance? The angrier she became, the more heat she generated. Or was it something else? She didn't know. Didn't care. There was only the all-consuming heat. I hate you. She shrieked, and for a moment it felt like someone cried out with her. I wish you'd all just burn. She saw the fear in his eyes as he scrambled back like a drunken crab weakness. And pounced, tackling him before he could hope to rise again back up. She all but dove on him, grabbed him by the face with a scalding palm, and smashed him down. Flesh sizzled in her grasp, so much grease over an open fire. She squeezed, muffling his cry against her palm. Vicious red welts boiled upon his skin. The feral grin tore across her face as his arm slapped at her, pushing at her chin, her shoulders, her wrists, to no avail. Strong arms closed around her from behind, pried her off, and flung her down. Those blasted boys of his grabbed her by the arms, wrenching her upright. One of them kicked her knees and forced her down. Meanwhile Bert stumbled to his feet, clutching at his scorched visage. Rather, the burning handprint now etched into the right side of his face just over his eye. He might well lose that. Cinder couldn't help but grin at the sight of it. She'd marked him. He'd never be able to rid himself of that for the rest of his days. Doesn't feel so nice, does it? She hissed. It would well worth the beating that followed, or so she reasoned. You'll pay for that, Fall. His remaining eye glowered on her, wild with rage. I'll kill you. He never got the chance to make good on that promise. Bert was still raving about what he would do to her when a fist-sized stone arced across the clearing and slammed into his nose. He toppled back again, clutching at his ruined visage with a loud gurgle. Distracted by the unfortunate plight of their leader, his cronies turned to face the new threat. Cinder didn't even have a chance to deal with them herself. A snarling shadow fell upon them before she could. Pick on someone your own size. She caught a flash of blue eyes before it was done. A vicious kick to the back of one's leg brought him to a knee, bringing his head within reach of a roundhouse punch to put him down. The other was a bit quicker on the uptake, but even then it wasn't enough. He threw a clumsy punch that didn't go anywhere near his intended target. His reward for such bravery. Clenched knuckles barreled into his stomach. His body folded in half and all but crumpled to the floor in a quivering heap. Cinder's savior turned to face her. "You okay?" It was the noisy boy from before. She recognized him immediately. He'd since bandaged his head with a bit of black cloth and claimed the tiny blanket she'd given him as a long cape of all things. Even now the azure cloth concealed the lower half of his face, while the rest fluttered in a faint breeze, like something out of a fairy tale. She'd never liked those kind of stories. She couldn't read, after all, and had been reduced to guesswork from picture cutouts. Seeing this, Nosh understood that words and appearances had power all their own. "You too? You want some?" Bert stumbled upright, insensate from rage. The blonde boy blinked at him, or rather, his face. "You should really get that looked at." "Shut up." He slugged him dead in the mouth. Incredibly, the blonde didn't fall. He merely turned the other cheek, face twisting but a little. "Is that it?" A lazy blue eye blinked up at him. As Cinder looked on, it began to shimmer a ghastly shade of slitted red. "I've met 5-year-olds who hit harder than you." Quick as a flash, he lunged upright and drove his skull into the taller boy's chin. Bert crumpled with a wordless cry, gone limp on the floor. His companions took one look at the blonde, followed by their leader. Back to the blonde again. Once more to Bert. Their decision made, they grabbed the ruined boy up by the shoulders and hauled him off. "We'll remember this." "So will I." The boy shook a fist at them as they retreated. And then he rounded on Cinder. She flinched, not sure what to make of his timely intervention, let alone those strange eyes. But they were already changing, bleeding back into gentle blue. As she looked on, he knelt down and retrieved the loaf of bread Bert had dropped and inspected it. A quick pat dusted it off. Then he offered it to her like some grand jewel. "This is yours, right?" "Sorry. It got a little dirty." Her fingers twitched toward it. Hesitated. "You're not going to eat it?" "Nope." He grinned and pushed it towards her. "Us orphans gotta stick together, you know." Cinder eyed the retreating boys. "But they're orphans, too." "Nope." The boy smacked his lips. "They're jerks. Totally different category. Probably eat mud pies." A small smile plucked at the corner of her mouth. "You're weird." "Nope" again. He laughed, and the sound made her heart race. "I'm Naruto." His other hand came for her, palm splayed. "Wanna be friends?" "Just like that?" He frowned. "Well, we not." Cinder knew she had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Still, she hesitated. "You're really not with them?" When he shook his head, she dared another question. "Where did you come from?" "Funny story, really." His grin flashed out, brighter than any sunbeam. "I kinda fell through a weird portal a few days ago, then a bunch of adults dragged me here." "Did you fall through a portal too?" "Portal?" He wasn't just weird. He was cracked. Cinder laughed at that. It was a short, sharp sound, one that had seen precious little use. Before long, Naruto joined her. A little while after that, they split the loaf of bread and shared it between themselves. It would prove the beginning of a strange friendship. Truly, the gods must be crazy, sending someone like him to her. Even if he was a little off. But what was normality anyway? Yes, she decided. The gods were certainly crazy. But maybe that was alright. She was crazy, too. Burn it down. This world wasn't right. Naruto came to that unenviable conclusion one night during his tenure in the orphanage. Monsters roaming the world unchecked, all this talk of aura, semblances, huntsman was clearly a long way from home. He knew that now. Accepted it, even. It was an unpleasant thought to be sure, but he sulking about it wouldn't do him any good. No matter how much he might dwell upon them. In the beginning, when he'd first found himself stranded in this awful place, such thoughts were never far from his mind. He'd nearly gone into a blind panic in the beginning. When he'd found himself stranded here, he'd spent the better part of a month roughing it in the wilds, living off the land. Before the adults caught him. Bastards. That was another problem he'd found. These people, rather, what little he'd seen of Mistral, wealthy, were lacking. His fellow orphans were harsh and cruel, and their caretakers little better. They'd mugged him while he was asleep, for crying out loud. Fleeced him blind. What kind of shelter did that? Sometimes he caught himself wishing they'd all just die. Caretakers of the something needed to be done about that. There were exceptions, of course. One such exception was tucked into his side, cuddling against him for warmth. "Blanket hog," he muttered with a rueful smile. Cinder nestled deeper into the blanket with him, tucking her head into his chest. "Not my fault. Cold." Naruto looped an arm about the small girl's shoulders and didn't challenge her. He knew she'd had a nightmare again. Their blanket was barely large enough for them both after they'd hit a growth spurt, but he try as he might, he just couldn't find it in himself to complain. Cinder refused to sleep alone these days. Her night terrors were all the worse when she was alone. Sometimes he wondered what she dreamed about. "You're alright." He pulled her closer. "Just rest." Just before he drifted off, he heard Cinder's whispered words. "I don't want to be a monster, don't let me become a monster, I don't want to be like her." Who was she talking about? Days blended together. Cinder wasn't sure what to make of Naruto and his strange ways at first, but in time she grew to understand him. He was an ally, if not a friend. He protected her, she protected him. They watched each other's backs when the other children were around. They huddled together for warmth at night. When she couldn't sleep, he told her stories of his world. Of secrets and jutsu and scrolls and wild wonders she didn't understand. She envied him that. To know a world where such marvels were commonplace, a world without grim. Two outcasts. Two weak urchins, all but powerless against the world. Or so she thought. As it turned out, Naruto wasn't so weak-willed after all. "I'll take them." Cinder watched from hiding place as two more children fell prey to that woman. Lady Tremaine, or the Madam, as she was known around these parts, took children from this orphanage all the time. The woman paid her visits by bullhead, paid up front in cash, and always left with one or two children under her care. Usually the rowdy ones. They never came back. But the woman did. Always. Time and time again she'd return to this place. Cinder had taken note of her coming and goings long ago. The Madam came here often. Too often. Of course she'd avoid her. Any sane child would. Sadly, those seemed to be in short supply these days. Cinder wasn't sure if that was a good thing. Did the children she adopted go on to lead happy lives? Or was there some nefarious purpose at work here? Whatever the case, she was rich and powerful. That much was abundantly clear by her attire and attitude. So much so that the orphanage staff always bowed and scraped before her. More than a few children, too. No one wanted to be here. Many saw her as their golden ticket there, one chance to escape this awful life. These two. The Madam pointed at two urchins. They look strong enough. Cinder watched her take two such children now, a tall boy and a short girl. She didn't know their names. Didn't care to know them. Everyone here save Naruto was her enemy. She told herself she didn't care about the fate of random strangers. So long as she stayed away from this odd woman and kept Naruto well at a distance she would be safe. The hand came down on her shoulder. "Whatcha doing?" "Eek." Cinder nearly jumped out of her skin. "Don't do that." The object of her affections blinked back at her quizzically, pure as the driven snow. She gave him a shove. As ever, he didn't budge. Really, it was like hitting a brick wall. A chatty, smiling brick wall that made her feel warm and fuzzy inside like nothing else, and treachery. Traitorous thoughts. She hissed at him. "Quiet." The Madam looked their way. Cinder ducked out of sight and dragged Naruto with her. "Ma'am?" She heard one of the staff ask after Lady Tremaine. "Did you see something?" There was a pause. Cinder's heart hammered out of her chest. "It's nothing," the woman said at last. "Here's your fee." She heard the telltale sound of lean exchanging hands. "A pleasure doing business with you." The orphanage matron tittered softly. "Please keep us in mind if you need any more children." "I will." Cinder counted to 3, not trusting her senses. When she finally dared to peek around the corner, the Madam was gone and her new wards with her. She didn't emerge from hiding until she saw the bullhead take off. Even then she remained perfectly still until it whisked itself away into the afternoon sky. Naruto wriggled free of her grasp a moment later. What was that about? She kicked his knee once to wince. "Ow. Solid. You have no sense of self-preservation, I swear." "Sure I do." He grinned and folded both arms behind his head. "I'm not stupid." There it was again, that damnable smile of his. "But nothing here can catch me if I don't want it to." His brow furrowed in a rare cloud of anger as a thought occurred to him. "Those jerks only got the drop on me cause I was sleeping. Never would have caught me otherwise." She swiped at him and he ducked back with laugh. "See? Even you can't catch me." He was rather agile. "So," he began, apropos of nothing, "I'm thinking of busting out of here tonight. Wanna come with?" Cinder's neck produced an audible crack as she rounded on him. "Excuse me?" Too late, Cinder noticed the pack slung on his shoulders. He hadn't had that before. Must have stolen it from one of the older boys. It was fit to burst, all but fraying at the seams. No doubt he crammed a good bit into it, but why here? Why now? It had been nearly a year. Why try and escape now and not then? Come. With. Me. Naruto leaned forward and clasped her hands in his. We don't need this place. It's awful and everyone in it. I've had enough of it. Let's burn it down and bolt. Cinder sputtered. You're mad. Nope. She frowned. You can't just run, they'll catch you. Nope. He laughed over her rebuttal. Won't happen. Not this time. The girl's heart skipped a single treacherous beat. It was tempting. So very tempting. But where would they go? Winter wasn't coming, it was already here. Once the storms hit, they'd freeze to death out there. Assuming the Grim didn't find them first. The drifts would be deep at this time of year and there could be no passage through the mountains. They would starve. This place was horrible, but at least they were fed. Bread and water was better than the things usually. Fear ruled her heart and she tugged her hands free. Looked away. I can't. Of course you can. You keep talking about all this predator and prey stuff. Well. He scowled at her as she withdrew and crossed both arms before his chest. Which are you? Cinder bridled, but her temper failed. That's not fair. Is so? His forehead struck hers, startling her with sheer proximity. You can be anything you want, Cinder. You just have to choose. Just take a chance. She wanted to a predator, not prey. She wanted to fight. She wanted to lead. But that wasn't her destiny. No matter how she railed against the truth, she simply wasn't strong enough to chance her fate. She loathed it like the orphanage itself, hating it with every fiber of her being. Truly, it wasn't fair at all. Cinder looked left. Cinder looked right. Cinder sighed. We'll die. No. He grinned at her. We won't. She scowled at him. What makes you so certain? Determination. He thumped a fist against his chest. We'll steal some food in heavy cloaks tonight, then we'll bolt. He opened a pouch. See? It was heavy with lean. Rob the bastards blind. Bit by bit, so they had no idea. They won't know what hit him until it's too late. Cinder blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice now. By the brothers, that was a lot of money. Had he spent the last year gathering it all? It wasn't enough to live on, not for long, but it was an admirable start. Her heart twitched. Freedom. Could it really be possible? And the fire? He grinned. Leave that to me. There were times when Cinder wondered if she should hate Naruto. Now was such a time. He lived without regret, without fear, without a second thought. Once he made up his mind there could be no swaying it. A part of her longed for that. Envied it. Craved it. Would that she could live such a life for herself. To simply cast aside her fear and become what she was destined to be. And right now, fear was all she felt. What if he left without her? She'd be alone again. Alone, vulnerable, unprotected. Easy prey for anyone who found her. And so she made her choice. Her hands closed around his. Later that night, the orphanage burned. All of it. Every bit. Burned right down to cinders. No one noticed two children slipping away in the chaos. And with that, the world of Remnant changed just a little bit more. Ah. And here they come, not before time. A boy of sunlight and a girl of ash. But are they late or are they early? Before their time or not? Do I believe? Why, I believe I do. Ramblings of a madwoman. Ifs we gave. It was a terrible day for rain. Not just any rain, mind you, but the icy sleety sort that almost always heralded snow. The kind that made the trusted paths treacherous and safe roads slippery. The miserable sort that you didn't want to be caught in dead or alive, least of all when you had no place to go. And yet here they were, two children, were trapped in it. Naruto yelped as his boot slipped in the muck, sending him crashing to the earth. His forehead kissed an impossibly hard root, sending stars snarling before his vision. Anyone else his age would have pitched a fit. Thrashed about and thrown an utter tantrum as they hollered their displeasure to the world. Instead he crawled to his feet, spared the bleak gray sky one last scowl beneath his cowl, shouldered his pack, and trudged onward. Stupid storm. He grumbled under his breath. Stupid day. Stupid, stupid, stupid. They'd not found a single settlement in their week of wandering, no intact ones, at least. Bandits and Grim seemed to be ever a step ahead of them. A small part of him was grateful for that. If only because he wasn't sure he'd be able to fend them off alone. In truth, it was beginning to wear on them. All this time sleeping in the rough, unable to hunt or forage for food, had seen their supplies dwindle. At best, they had another day's worth of food left. And then, well. He'd have to try his hand at hunting, horrible as he was. I found a cave. Cinder's voice broke through the evening gloom like a clarion call. Completely claiming his attention. Sure enough, he found his traveling companion waiting for him just over the next rise. Gleaming golden eyes lit up at the sight of him. A small hand waved in his direction. Look. See for yourself. It was a rough-hewn thing that looked to be carved from the mountain itself, man-made rather than any real natural formation. Empty pitted torch sconces lay arranged on either side of its maw, long since dampened by the deluge. A wide tunnel stretched out and down, a deep dark abyss promising them safety and shelter from the storm. They had but to venture and take their chances with whatever lurked within. Naruto spared Cinder a reluctant glance. "Careful," he cautioned. "We don't know what's in there." She clutched her cloak tight. "Has to be better than this, though." She was still a bit tense after their fiery escape, but there was a spark in her eyes now, a hunger for life that hadn't been there before. She'd let her hair down out of those awful pigtails, leaving it to fall carelessly around her ears. She seemed all the livelier for it. Getting her out of that orphanage was something he'd never regret. Burning it down gave him more relief than 1,000 lying adults. Her smile was worth it. Still, storm or not, he really didn't like the look of that cave. Fresh sleet pelted his back, drawing a shudder. And so he offered her his hand. Together. Cinder latched on for dear life. Together. And so, despite his recriminations, in they went. Once they were safely in the entrance and out of the rain yet, Naruto drew a bit of flint from his pack, followed by a pair of branches. Tearing a bit of cloth from the edge of his cloak, he bound them together, creating a crude bundle of sorts. A few sparks proved more than enough to light them both. In a matter of moments, each had a small torch of sorts. Down they went into the dark, alone but for each. They walked in silence for a long moment, footfalls echoing in the dark. "You sure about this?" He winced when his voice bounced off the walls. In the silence it seemed to take on a life of its own. "Of course I am." Cinder tilted her head. "Because of you, I am who I am. That means I trust you." Deeper they delved. Fire flickered further within beyond the range of their torches, and a spark of hope ignited in the blonde's chest. Fire meant warmth. Warmth meant people. Surely that was a good thing until one considered who might be out and about in weather such as this. Amber light limned the walls as they crept closer, casting dark and terrible specters about the cave. Their shadows became terrible, twisted things, and neither wished to look at them. In the end, they didn't have to. A faint and tiny flame awaited within. Tended by a hunched and hooded figure. As they crept closer, a wrinkled hand emerged from the shadows of their cloak and threw another plank onto the fire. Rather than smolder silently, it sprang to life at once. Tongues of angry heat and fuel clung to the wood and devoured it eagerly. And in that explosion of heat, Naruto glimpsed a woman's face. There was blood on her cheek. Fear. In hindsight, he couldn't rightly explain what it was that caused him to feel such terror, only that he did. He gasped and stumbled back, torch falling from numb fingers, his grip on the torch as he did. It fell and guttered out in a puddle with a sullen hiss. Cinder tried to catch him and lost her own light in the chaos, sending it clattering to the floor. The stranger heard it and looked up sharply. Roomy wide eyes regarded them, nearly gone blind with age. They locked upon him and Cinder like a hawk. "So small." She whispered in a creaking voice like dry leather. "So frail. Your flame is still embers. And yet someday, you will burn the gods themselves." Cinder blinked, somewhat taken aback. "Excuse me?" Rather than answer, the crone laughed. "Never you mind. And so comes the prince and the princess." A merry cackle filled the cave, caroming off the walls like a crazed cat. "You're both late. So very late. For a very important date." She flung up her arms and tittered softly, those stooped shoulders hunching even further. "Or are you early? Such a silly thing time is." A grin exposed blackened, missing teeth. "And I have been waiting for quite some time." Cinder cocked her head like a wary she-wolf, not liking that remark one bit. "Who are you waiting for?" "You of course." The woman cackled. "Don't you know it's rude to keep a lady waiting?" Naruto pushed Cinder behind him. Whoever she was, the old crone was clearly off her rocker. Had to be. Only a lunatic would be out and about by themselves in the wilds, let alone a storm like this. He didn't see any real weapons on her, save for a gnarled staff. One that looked just as weathered as she. Closer inspection revealed it was decorated with strange runes and oh, dear. Those were human skulls hanging from its branches. Nope. His mind bleated. Not having it. "We don't want any trouble." He began to back away slowly, nudging Cinder with him. "We'll just be going now." "Nonsense." The ancient woman shook her head. "There's plenty of room by the fire." A veined hand patted empty space beside her. "Come. Warm yourselves." Naruto nearly refused on sheer principle until Cinder sneezed. It was a small tiny sound, but it swayed him all the same. One look confirmed his suspicions. She was pale and trembling beneath her cloak. To venture out into the storm now promised more than a mere cold. She may well come down with something worse. He didn't want any harm to befall her. And yet he had seen blood on the woman's face. The sight still stuck with him even now, needling him furiously. He'd heard tell of cannibals in these parts. Cinder tugged at his sleeve. "What should we do?" "No idea." He whispered back to her. "She's crazier than a bag of rats." "Well, I'm cold." She hissed, repressing another sneeze. "Might as well die warm." Cinder broke ranks first and scuttled forward, forcing Naruto to do the same or be left behind in the dark. Rather than sit next to the woman, she plunked down on the other side of her, careful to keep the flames between them at all times. At least she wasn't foolish enough to place herself in harm's way. Naruto mirrored her and shucked his cloak, letting it dry near the fire. "There's a sensible lad." The hag chortled. "Be careful whom you trust." Naruto wrinkled his nose. "Like you?" "Ha." She guffawed openly at his skepticism. "Such a skittish little fox. I'll not harm you." As they looked on, she dug about in her satchel. "Come, child." The old crone crooned. "Eat. Drink. Good food will bring you joy." Naruto and Cinder exchanged a wary glance as she removed food of all things. All told, the meal looked well, harmless really. Fruit and grains, simple bread, a bit of dried meat. Nothing sinister here. Truth be told, he had half expected juicy red meat, raw and dripping, perhaps that was cliché. They tore into it with wild abandon, caring not for their manners. Whomever she was, the hag knew how to prepare food. A small silver flask of what smelled faintly like berry water was passed between them, and they drank of it greedily. Warm and full, they subsided, tucked into another for warmth, and huddled closer to the fire. Cinder found her voice first. "Who are you?" "No one of importance, dearie," came the reply. "Just a moldy old woman wandering the wastes. But not you." Her eyes narrowed upon them. "Sun and ash, the two of you are. Light and dark. Savior and slayer. Do I believe? Why, so I do." She laughed again, only for her words to end in a roomy cough. "Come closer." When neither did, she only guffawed anew. "I have gifts for you if you have but the will to take them." Well, that sounded every bit like a trap. Still. For the boy who fell out of his world. She reached over the fire, uncaring as it blistered her flesh, to handed him a wickedly sharp knife bearing a curved edge. "I give you the means to protect yourself. This will serve you well enough until you uncover your gifts." Gifts? What gifts? Did she know what he was? Naruto considered it for a long moment, regarding its ebony blade and tapered tip. It felt warm in his grasp. Almost alive. A far sight better than the shoddy kunai and shuriken he had on him. He gave it a lazy twirl and frowned at the length of chain dangling from its hilt. Why the chain? Was it meant to be thrown? Thanks. But the old biddy had already turned to face Cinder. And for sweet little Cinder, she reached into the folds of her cloak and produced a beautiful crimson garment from her pack. "I give you this dress. It's warm and soft. A perfect fit. And far better than the rag she was wearing." Those words went unspoken. Cinder accepted it with awe in her eyes. Then her gaze narrowed. "How do you know my name?" Now," the hag leaned back, her gnarled face twisting in a thin, secret smile. "Allow an old woman some secrets." Naruto leaned back, regarding the old crow intently. All this stank of a tricky semblance of it or magic. Magic didn't exist in this world, surely. Yet this woman acted as if she knew them. Indeed, like she'd been waiting for them. An icy shiver stole down his spine. This woman was more than she appeared. Much more. Worse, he couldn't tell if she meant them harm or not. Here at last, his sixth sense failed them. "I have one last gift for you." Those milky white eyes narrowed upon them. "Your future." Naruto snorted. "Prophecy. Bah. More hocus pocus. We really don't need." The fires flared, stilling the words on his tongue. "Seek the raven on the morrow." Still their host continued to ramble. "Her camp lies to the east. You will find safety and power with her for a time. But do not linger." A bony finger stabbed at them. "Your fate does not lie with her flock. Trust to one another." She giggled again, at some unspoken joke. "Be better than your elders, lest you blind each other. Show mercy where you must. Keep your friends close. And your enemies closer still. Heed my words, and the world will be yours." "No, really." Naruto sat up, scowling. "Who are you? Have we met? Persistent little fox, aren't you?" Before their very eyes, the crone sat up, abandoning her hunch entirely. "Miranda is my name, if you know." Her voice sounded stronger suddenly, sharper, somehow. "I have done my part." She shivered a little. "The witch sees me. I can do no more. May this be a fruitful experiment." "Experiment?" Cinder frowned. "Wait, what witch?" "We will meet again." Her staff struck down and a storm of birds burst forth them, sweeping up and out the mouth of the cavern. Cinder fell back with a yelp. Naruto covered his face with an arm, yet the fowl had no interest in either of them. So focused were they on their filite. When they looked back, the old woman was gone. All that remained was her twisted staff, covered in worn runes. Cinder gave it a kick and clutched her shoulders for warmth. Creepy. What was she? Just a crazy witch? Naruto shook his head. Nothing to worry about. They huddled close for warmth that night. Cinder woke first. Though the fire had long since died, their sleeping bag was still warm, and so she tucked herself in tight. Naruto didn't stir against her. A low snore told her he was quite asleep. And so she nestled closer, laying her head against his chest. His heartbeat steady in her ear, a low thump 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 that slowly lulled her back into sleep. Still, that prophecy nagged at her. Why would she blind Naruto? It didn't make a lick of sense. Bah. What did it matter what some old hag said? Cinder tucked her head against his chest with a scowl. Sleep came swiftly thereafter, and she spared no more thoughts for mystics or prophecy. The very next day they finally blundered into someone sane. Unfortunately weren't happy to see them. Take the girl. Cinder thrashed backward as strong hands sought her shoulders. When that didn't work, she lashed out and drove a knee into their groin. Her attacker doubled over with a whimper and she clambered between his legs, crawling for dear life. Behind her she heard Naruto snarl and felt the man crash into the ground. She didn't dare look back. When she did, she saw her partner go down not yards away, swarmed by bodies, fighting like a devil. Bandits? Why did it have to be bandits? Of all the people they could have met on the road. Someone grabbed her and wrestled her to the ground. An ugly face filled her vision, bald and scarred and sneering at her like a piece of meat. Warm, fetid breath filled her nose and she pushed at him with both hands, to no avail. He was too big. Too heavy. She couldn't budge him. Sunlight poured down on her, shadowed by his filthy bulk. You'll fetch a high price on the market. He leered at her and licked his lips. I'm sure the boss won't mind if I take a piece. Cinder stilled. He was going to hurt her. Something clicked in the back of her head. Her eyes flashed. Burn. He should burn. They should all burn. Every last one of them. Cinder reached out and grabbed her captor by the face, no longer trying to move him. He scoffed and that scoff became a scream as heat flared between her palms. His scream warped into a shriek as skin bubbled and muscle melted. The sound was muffled against her palms. His grip slackened and she writhed around him, clambering onto his back when his arms couldn't reach. He tried to stand up, but she only burned him all the more, never once letting go of his face. Slowly, gradually, his struggles weakened. Stilled. His body twitched and fell still. Still she bore down, rendering his face so much molten slag. She killed Mercer. Someone cried out behind her. Another bandit, no doubt. Cinder paid them no heed. She tumbled off the bandit's back, balking at her bloody hands. Even now they still shimmered with faint flame, burning away the red. This was her semblance. It must be. A small, disbelieving laugh tumbled from her lips. This was her gift. This was power. This was strength. With this, she would never be weak again. The heavy body slammed into her from behind and ripped her back to reality. Something cracked against her skull, shattering her tenuous grasp on her power. I'll kill you. Cinder kicked out with both legs, to no avail. Get off. Powerful hands closed around her throat, choking the life from her. All the world began to darken at the edges. Her hand slapped at his face, to no avail. She was took weak. Too dazed by the blow that had cracked her skull. Panic flared deep within her. This was death. She was going to die here. No. Not like this. I don't want to die here. A chain pierced the back of her attacker and burst through his chest, spattering her face with blood. Her attacker froze and choked in surprise, regarding the gaping wood with wide eyes. His hand slipped from her throat, allowing Cinder to take a ragged gasp and look up. What she found there warmed her blood more than any flame. Behind them, Naruto exhaled harshly, surrounded by fallen bodies. Blood ran down his hair and streaked his face. Stained his clothes, his arms, even his boots. But it was his eyes that held her. Those once gentle blue orbs were red. Stranger still, glowing chains off what could only be called light burned from his back. One was lodged in the bandit and another wrapped around a burly forearm, even now preventing him from killing her. Naruto yanked on that wicked weapon with a snarl, reeling it in like a fishing line. That over here. Cinder's tormentor didn't scream. Calling it a scream would have been generous. It was more of a surprised croak as Naruto yanked them back into his grasp. He didn't have a chance to stand, to fight, or even resit. A cruel clawed hand closed around the back of his head with furious force. Clawed fingers dug into the man's skull, uncaring of their resistance and squeezed. Something popped like an overripe grape, leaving his headless body to topple toward the ground. Chest heaving, eyes wild, Naruto stumbled back. Cinder blinked back at him, eyes wide. You alright? She managed a jerky nod. A tentative smile blossomed across her face. When he reached down for her, she took his hand without hesitation and allowed him to help her stand. Why wouldn't she? He'd protected her. Killed for her. That was, well, more than anything had ever done for her. Ever. She didn't know what those strange chains of his were, but even as she looked on, they wound back into his shoulders and vanished. In the silence, a rasping grasp filled the air. Cinder jolted, realizing one of the bandits was still alive. Wretched and gasping for air, bleeding from a dozen wounds, the poor unfortunate soul tried to crawl away from Naruto. He didn't get far. What's going on here? A wicked-looking woman wearing a bone mask appeared from a crimson portal to bar his path. Clad in black and red, she surveyed the massacre, eyes hidden behind that bony facade. She took stock of it all, not fazed at all by the carnage, but by something else entirely. A furious growl rumbled from behind her mask. She tore a sword from the sheath at her side, exposing a ruby-red blade to the afternoon air. "Idiots, the lot of you." She kicked the poor bandit about the head, sending him sprawling. "What did I say about kidnapping kids? We don't do that shit anymore. But best money. The hell with the money." Her blade sliced down, and the man expired with a rattling gurgle. "My tribe. My rules." Then she truly saw them. Well. The murderer planed a boot on her victim's back and ripped her blade free. "What do we have here?" The woman cocked her head, regarding them as a goddess might an ant. "Did the two of you do all this? By yourselves?" Naruto frowned and shifted half a step backward, pulling Cinder with him. "What if we did?" Cinder murmured it with a scowl she hoped looked impressive. "And just who are you?" Low laughter spilled through the air, like smoke through honey. "Bold little things, aren't you? Even wounded as you are, you'd fight me to the death." Their mysterious benefactor chuckled behind their mask. "Very well. You've proven your strength." Firm hands reached up and plucked the ghastly facade free from her face. Red eyes gleamed back at them, sharp and intent, set in a pale visage. "There. You've seen my face." She planted one hand on her hip and smirked. "Do you recognize me now?" Naruto and Cinder exchanged a baffled look. "No." Brave and Branwin absolutely twitched. Brats. It was just too much for Cinder to bear. Yes, she just couldn't help herself. She started laughing. "There is only one rule in life. The strong survive. But more you took." The bloody blade swept down at Cinder's head. Rather than flee like any sensible child, the golden-eyed girl strengthened her stance and stood her ground. Twin blades crossed to catch the crimson edge between them, trapping the longsword within their gap. The raw impact of their collision sent sparks of red-hot agony shooting down her thin arms. Muscle creaked. Bone shuddered ominously. Yet she didn't fall. A grin tore across her face as she reared back and slammed her heel into her attacker's knee. The pained grunt was her reward. Her heart soared as the blade buckled. Just a little. Just a bit. It was enough. Yes. A little flare of pride filled her chest. "I finally hit her." "Not bad." Her mentor gave a nod. Scarlet eyes narrowed. "But not good enough, either." Brave and Branwin braved her blade with both hands and tore through her defense like wet paper. Cinder wasn't there. She did. Omen swept through empty air as she struck the ground and tumbled to safety. She grabbed a fistful of dirt as she went, then flung it after her. Heat and fire flared as they flew, crystallizing the once harmless soil into molten shards of explosive glass. In the same moment she saw a streak of motion that heralded Naruto's return to the fray. A muffled explosion reached her ears, but she didn't dare look back. Something like that wouldn't faze Raven for long. Sure enough, the chieftain's laughter rose to mock her attempt. "Good." The swordswoman's voice sneered into the smoke. "Life is a battle. Use every advantage you have." Cinder pivoted and scowled into the smokescreen created by her blast. One leg draped low, while the other swung back, her body poised to react at the slightest provocation. Her eyes flitted left, then right, searching for any sign of movement. She wouldn't be caught off guard. Not again, not this time. 3 years of this. 36 months of constant training bordering on torture. Raven was relentless. She wouldn't let her or Naruto raid because they weren't strong, refused to allow out of leave camp because they were young, wouldn't do anything more than train them. Day after day she beat them down, built them back up, and destroyed them all over again. She was as much their master as she was their mentor, and they her apprentices. It burned. And not in the bad way. For all her savagery, Raven was undoubtedly strong. But so what? Today was the day she finally wiped that smirk off her face and yipe. Omen swept out of the haze with impossible speed, raking a thin line just below Cinder's left eye before she could comprehend the danger. She yelped and shunted the edge aside, backpedaling lest her adversary advance and overwhelm her with a flurry of strikes. Too slow. A boot caught her in the torso to hurl her away. Something sharp cracked against Cinder's back. Oh. Her rattled brain wondered. Hello, wall. We meet again. Bleary eyes blinked up and she realized she'd slammed into the wooden palisade at the edge of camp. More than a few chuckles greeted her. How she longed to snuff them out. Stupid tribe. Not even 14 and already she was stronger than all of them all except Raven. Raven who tossed her about like a rag doll. Raven who claimed she did it because she cared. Raven who beat her within an inch of her life. How it burned. How many times do I have to tell you? A hand closed around Cinder's throat and ripped her upright. Don't lose focus in a fight. It'll get you killed. Cinder tried to respond, only for 5 firm fingers to dig into her throat. She kicked at her mentor's chest with an vengeful snarl. "What's that?" Raven cocked her head. "I can't seem to hear you." A flick of her wrist flung her away like a skipping stone. "Watch my waist." Raven slammed Omen into its sheath as Cinder crawled to her feet and drew another dust blade, this one a deep rippling blue. "It'll tell you where I'm going to move." Cinder raised a single finger in a sharp salute where she lay. She had only just recovered when that scarlet sword swept past and slammed down through the dirt. Grit sprayed into Cinder's eyes and she recoiled with a yelp. "That's not fair." "Everything is fair in combat." Raven fell upon her in a storm of swords, hacking like a madwoman. "Adapt." Step by step Cinder found herself forced back. Her eyes stinging with pain, tears, arms aching, guard forced out of balance as she blocked each blow. Finally she couldn't take it anymore. Her arms began to buckle under the strain. She knew. Raven knew it. And then it ended. A single sweep brought Branwin well within striking distance. From there she chambered Omen in its sheath and cut down. Aura crackled, sending Cinder sprawling to the ground. Oh gods, the pain. She sucked in an agonizing breath and felt her ribs protest all the more for it. She tried to rise, to move, to fight, something, a thing. Raven's shadow fell over her. Had she broken something? She couldn't move her right arm. The world. If this were a real fight you would have been dead 9 times over. Twin pools of cold crimson met orbs of molten gold. What do you have to say for yourself? She pivoted and planted one hand against her hip. Well. Had enough yet? Cinder slapped a hand against the ground. That's not a response. Damn it. Damn her. Damn it'll. Her head snapped up and she snarled, low and angry. Shut up. Pause now, when a flicker of movement stirred behind Raven in the haze of combat. Soundless footsteps approached rapidly. Naruto. He crept close with a keen look in his eyes. Raven didn't notice. Her wrath and her disappointment were fixed firmly upon her. Taking up her blade in both hands, she raised it high, readying the finishing blow. A singular strike that would crack her aura wide open and send her spiraling into unconsciousness. If you were stronger or more clever, she chided, then maybe you'd remember to watch your back. Cinder smirked. And maybe you should heed your own advice. Raven pivoted too late. The length of glowing chain coiled around her ankle. Then it yanked, tearing her feet out from under her. Naruto hauled her away with a roar of triumph, sent her body arsing up, and smashed her into the ground. Raven cut up with her blade, only for the viciously long cord to whip her through a tent. Followed by another. Another. And another still. Aura fizzled sullenly. For the first time since they'd met her, the elder Branwin cried out in pain. But only for a moment. Anyone else would have been knocked out by an attack like that. Raven simply hauled herself upright, reached around, and caught the chain within her fist. Her palm crushed around the glowing link with an awful sound. It bloodied her fingers yet she didn't relent, tightening her ruined hand around it until the razor-sharp link shattered like brittle glass. Clever move, boy. She was generous with her praise when she climbed back to her feet. Striking when my back was turned. But how well will you fare when I'm aware of you? Naruto shrank back a step. This is going to hurt, isn't it? Immeasurably. Raven grinned. But it's for your own good. They closed with one another. It wasn't a fight. They didn't hack at one another like lunatics. Their duel was a dance. Naruto didn't give ground, not once. 9 barbed chains coiled and struck behind him like wrathful whips, gouging the ground, tents, anything they touched. For her part Raven was forced to defend and little else while he pressed the attack. What few strikes slipped through his guard healed almost immediately. They collided and grappled for all of a moment and somehow, he launched her away, buying himself time. Then he launched her way. His hand snapped up and red light flowed into his palm. That's much better. Raven clambered to her feet with a laugh, a wide grin tearing across her pale face. I can actually feel that. Give me a moment, Naruto mirrored her grin with a wild snarl. All you'll be feeling is oblivion. Utter disappointment. Raven shrugged. Go ahead. Flip that coin. Naruto shot forward. Raven blurred. Cinder didn't see who struck first, but he was the one who crashed backward. His spine struck the earth and cut a furious furrow through it until he came to rest it or didn't rise again. We'll call it there for today. Raven straightened, clutching her side. I've got a raid to plan. Both of you, attend to her while I'm gone. She left them with those words. Like always. Like they were nothing. How it burned. Cinder slammed a fist into the ground. Damn it. Another loss. Naruto found his footing first. Well, we came close that time. Cinder scowled at his offered hand. I want power. Her fist smashed into the dirt. I never want to be weak like that again. How were you able to fight like that? He shrugged. Push-ups, sit-ups, and plenty of juice. If looks could kill he would be a smoldering pile of ashes on the floor. Alright. He raised his hands and accepted defeat. It's hard to explain, but I'll try. His brow furrowed and the chains returned, twining around him like wary sentries. See? I can control them pretty well, but most of the time they act on their own. Like an automatic defense. His hand touched his chin. I think that's the word. Sometimes I can even hear a voice in my head when I use them. Like it's telling me what to do, how to move before I realize it. Cinder envied him that. Voices or not, he was undoubtedly able to hold his own in a fight. It's nice, he admitted, scratching at a whiskered cheek. Feels like someone's protecting me. Watching over me, you know. A rueful chuckle split the air between them. Maybe it's the ghost of my real mom or something. Lucky him. She couldn't even remember her parents. For a moment, she hated him for it. Naruto was strong. She was still weak. He had memories of a different life, a different world, and all she had was ash. Even now. 3 years after the cave. She scowled and stamped it down, recalling the old woman's words. No. Never weak. Never, ever again. Cinder frowned at her arm. For a moment there it almost liquid black. She blinked and found it the same as it always had. Bah. Shadows were playing tricks on her. We have to survive, Cinder. That's all that matters here. The tribe. They should all die. All our enemies. Every last one of them. Naruto recoiled. Cinder. The poor girl blinked, realizing what she'd said. She clung to him like a child wailing in the night, like the child she still was, begging to be heard. Not to be forgotten. I'm sorry. Her head slammed into his chest. I didn't mean Yopless, never leave me. Mara was a gentle girl. Too gentle for the power of the Spring Maiden, Naruto thought. Born with pale skin and striking violet eyes and a wild cloud of red curls about her head, she was the last person one might expect to wield such power. She was a sickly girl, shy and prone to speaking in brief sentences at the best of times. Nearly muted others. She feared most of the tribe and isolated herself constantly. He couldn't help but pity her. She was scarcely able to walk these days, let alone feed herself. For if spring was the season of life and change, then so too was Mara, a force of nature. Or she should have been. She was simply too terrified of her own power. Afraid to use it. More than a few thought she wasn't right in the head. Damaged or simple perhaps. Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't. He had no way of knowing. And he didn't like the way Cinder had been glaring at her as of late. Still, it was their job to see that she was kept fed and clean. Nothing more. There you go. He set one such tray heaped with food before the girl. Enjoy. Her pale veined hand grabbed at his wrist. Thank you. His heart twisted. Don't mention it. I know you don't want to be here any more than we do, he hummed as he tugged a stray strand of lank hair out of her eyes. But it'll be alright. If you need anything at all. You should fight back. Naruto shot a glower at Cinder. Fight? You have power. His friend raised a hand and clenched her fist tight. You could go wherever you want, be whomever you wanted to be. Yet you limit yourself. Why? Cinder, he warned, that's enough. The eyes met hers. I never wanted this power. Well. That was the most she'd said in a good long while. Cinder exploded. Why not? She surged up before he could think to stop her and swatted the tray from Mara's hands. Are you stupid? You've been blessed. Yet you hide away here and listen to these scum. Coward. Mara blinked at her, not quite comprehending. Then she laughed. It was a wild, crazed thing, one that took both children aback. View this as a blessing. Her voice peaked, a high and reedy whine of fear. It a curse. Bloodshot eyes roamed the room. She'll come for me. Come for us all. We're all doomed. He reached for her. Mara. Get out. Cinder needed no further prodding. Naruto lingered a moment more, unwilling to leave. The gale of wind hit him in the face and all but shoved him outside. Looking back, he couldn't help but wonder if he should have stayed. It might have changed things. The very next morning, Raven paid Mara a visit. There were no more outbursts after that. Spring didn't speak to them afterward. Their first raid was bloody. Naruto wasn't sure why he was surprised, only that he was. It didn't stop him, of course. Nothing did. Even as his heart twitched with guilt, he fought on. Rather than strike at some defenseless border town, the Branwin tribe chose to attack a White Fang encampment. No weaklings here. These were trained veterans from the Faunus Wars, one and all. These men and women had stolen from the tribe and refused to return what they'd taken. They'd slain those who approached. And so they would repay their debt in blood. This was the way. It was into this hell that a 14-year-old Naruto found himself thrust. Guns barked around him. Blades crashed. Aura sparked. He gave himself to his instincts and tore through it all without reservation. He gloried in it. Grinned like a wild as he waded through the chaos. It felt so very nice to fight bad guys again. These were all killers, and those who worked with them were even worse. Human. The crazed Retid rushed him with blade in hand. So young. Pity stirred in his heart. So young. He quashed it and gave the suicidal zealot what he hoped was a quick death. Chains of chakra burst from the blonde's back and skewered the unlucky fool at 3 yards. He twitched against them, struggling to advance. Blonde brows drew down. The chains responded in kind. Rent him in half like a stuffed toy. Then he moved on to the next. The woman rushed him with a shriek. Only to be caught by the face and summarily disemboweled for her troubles. He said a prayer for her and walked on. 3 more fell to his chains and another to the hatchet he wielded in hand. It was a strange thing, throwing oneself into a grand melee like this. He wasn't surprised when the killers began to break. Their kind always did. They didn't have a creed. They lacked a code. They struck out at anyone and everything. Such would be their undoing. Down. He ducked as a blade of superheated glass swept over his head. It raced past and bisected a massive brute wielding was that a chainsaw. Odd. Dismissing such thoughts fro his mind, the Jinchuriki rose fro his crouch and shot his savior a black look. Hey, watch it. You nearly blinded me. Sorry, Cinder hummed as she slipped past. Your head was where my sword needed to be. I swear, one of these days you're going to be the death of me. She slapped his arm and danced away with a laugh. Abruptly, she doubled back and darted in for a fierce embrace. Her arms linked around his as her chin came down around his shoulder. He jolted in surprise, barely having time to return her affections before she slipped away into the madness once more. In that moment she'd never looked more alive. With a rueful smile, he drew his chains about him and waded in after her. To hell with an old woman's words. This was their life to live. Theirs. They would kill to keep it. Hide. Cinder couldn't remember the last time he'd seen Raven this concerned. No, scratch that. She couldn't recall seeing her worried of her. For so long Raven Branwin had been a bastion of strength and power, a constant they'd lived their lives by. Not cruel but stern, not evil, but ambiguous. She disliked the woman to be sure, but she didn't wish death upon her. She'd fed them, kept them clothed, and offered them shelter. Yet now as she thrust them into her tent, there could be no denying her fear. Terror was writ all over her face, punctuated by the pitched sounds of combat outside. Smoke. Fire. She could still see it, hear the screams as keenly as if they were her own. Braven. A woman's voice sang out into the gloom. Where are you? We know you're here. Give us the girl. They'd come for the maiden. With one arm Raven thrust Mara's limp body at Cinder, the other pushed them deeper into the tent and pressed a knife into her hands. Kill her. She snapped. Do it now. Cinder jerked back with a yelp. What? The power is yours, Cinder. Take it and run. Now. Naruto yanked her back. And after? Why are you doing this? Your time with the tribe will be over. She stood with a wince. Kill her and go. I'll buy you some time. Cinder understood what she meant at once. The power. Raven was offering the power of the spring maiden to them. To her. To have it gifted to her on a silver platter was too much. Too tempting. She couldn't resist. She should resist, shouldn't she? She had an awful feeling about this, but the prospect of power was so tempting. So tantalizing. Tears sprang to her eyes. I'll be able to protect myself with this. Yes. Raven's voice was cold. Clipped. Thank you. Don't thank me. Those furious red eyes regarded her with veiled intent. This is an awful burden. I don't want it. You may curse me for this someday. Curse her? For a power like this? Why would she? Shining eyes met hers. No. Never. Thank you. Mara looked up at her with bleary eyes. The thorn of hesitation held Cinder back. Did she dare? There could be no taking this back. If the tribe had been attacked for this, then surely the same fate would fall upon her. Or would it? Mara was weak. She refused to use her gifts and live in fear. She was a fretful, fearful child. Cinderfall was not. Resolve burned in her eyes. Naruto saw it and swore. Cinder, don't. Cinder twisted the knife. Fire. Heat filled her veins, swelling in every cell, every fiber of her being. She gasped and dropped her weapon to clutch at herself. The pain didn't stop. It spiraled ever higher, eating away at her soul. Her head snapped up with a cry as her voice broke, breath hitching out of her in little gasps. Naruto's arms came down around and she clawed at it with a terrified sob, nails tearing into the flesh of his chest. He grunted but didn't release her. Make it stop, she wanted to say. It's too much. I'm going to break. I can't. Cinder felt something shift behind them. For a moment, through blazing eyes she struggled to blink. Be strong. A voice whispered in her ear. Trust one another. In the end, that's all you have. Just trust. Hold each other. Love one another. Be strong. For a moment, just a second, she could have sworn Raven had embraced them. Hugged them, as if they were her own. She didn't know for certain. Couldn't even begin to be sure. Just as swiftly the pressure eased and she found herself spun around, gazing into those peerless red eyes. If you see Tail, tell him I'm sorry. The crimson portal swirled open before them. Naruto realized what she intended. His eyes widened. Don't even think about it. We can stay. We can fight. We can. With tears in her eyes, Raven Branwin shoved the two of them through to safety. Go scouting in Atlas, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Bullshit, he said. Crow looked down at the two teenagers sprawled at his feet and cursed his semblance to the blackest pit. What the actual hell? Bleary red eyes drifted up to the closing portal through which they'd flown. It snapped shut before his very eyes, denying him the reprieve he sought. Nope. No answers there. His gaze shifted down to the brats, only just now beginning to stir on the floor. Back to his flask now. A groan told him the little wretches were waking up. Damn it. With that thought, his mind came to a single unenviable conclusion. He raised his flask. Gave it a shake. Good. Still a fair bit left. I am not nearly drunk enough for this shit. He tipped the flask back and drank. We can all understand one another. We can all be friends. No. I am no longer naive enough to believe that lie. I have seen good men cut down while evil men triumph. I have seen the powerless tear apart the mighty. And that was when I understood. The natural order is disorder. New growth cannot exist without first the destruction of the old. Likewise, instinct is a lie told by a fearful body hoping to be wrong. It means that when you base your expectations only on what you see, you blind yourself to the possibilities of a new reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world unless you make it happen. Wherever there is light, there will always be shadows to be found as well. As long as there is a concept of victors, the vanquished will also exist. The selfish intent of wanting to preserve peace initiates wars. And hatred is born to protect love. Future. So more in turn is due. If there was a god, he hated Crow Branwin. Call it a semblance, call it a curse, call it destiny, bad luck seemed to follow him wherever he went these days. From Vale to Vacuo, Mistral to Menagerie, even far-flung Atlas. Everywhere he went, misfortune wasn't far behind. He could no sooner separate himself from it than he could his own shadow. A force he couldn't control. Unlikely. Yet learned to endure all the same. Frankly, it was a right pain in the ass. Most of the times it was small things. Just the sort you might chalk up to coincidence. A full glass would crack in his grasp, staining his trousers with booze. He'd trip over an upturned board in an inn or blunder his way into a pack of angry Grim. That at least Crow could live with. His friends couldn't. You see, misfortune befell them, too. Anyone who stuck around him too long suffered from it. Sometimes they even died. Ill luck was something he had learned to cope with over time. Nothing a little booze couldn't fix. Helped blur the pain a bit, you know. It was also part of the reason why he traveled alone. Because his semblance just loved to drop surprises in his lap. Easier for him to handle when he didn't have any baggage dragging him down. Case in point, the two teenagers currently slouching before him in the bar. They'd come tumbling out of a portal, Raven's portal. And all but bowled him over only an hour ago outside of a bar. Both had nearly bolted before he'd managed to corral them. Food and drink loosened their tongues, as it did for most their age, and now at least, they didn't look like they would run. Not immediately at any rate. Damn, today just ain't my day. Leaning back on a bar stool, the surly bird planted an elbow on the table and knocked his flask back. So, he began apropos of nothing, I take it you're friends of Raven. They winced a little under his words. Relax, he tipped his flask back and drank anew. I'm her brother. I ain't gonna hurt you. Strangely enough, his words only made them turtle up. The girl hunched her shoulders, trying to look small, while the boy shifted himself just so, angling himself towards her. Crow didn't miss the look of furtive fear that flashed across their faces. Well. That didn't do wonders for his confidence and once again, curiosity reared its head in his heart. Just who were these two and why the hell had Ray dumped them in his lap? The boy found his voice first. You're her brother? Yeah, he capped his flask with a frown. That a problem? His companion grit her teeth and looked away with a whimper. She's dead. Crow's flask fell from nerveless fingers. It struck the floor, bounced once, and landed at the girl's feet. She stared at it like it was a grenade. Just as well too. Because her words had blown his world to pieces. He must have misheard her. Had to be. What she'd just said it wasn't possible. Raven was a lot of things, but damn it, she was strong. She wouldn't just roll over and die. No way. Not possible. He swallowed once and braced an arm on the bar to steady himself, wanna run that by me again. The girl looked away. She died getting us to safety. The boy's silence only confirmed her statement. It was a punch to Crow's gut. Shit. He plunked back down in a chair and bent to retrieve for his flask. Are you sure you saw her die? Even now he tried to cling to hope against hope. She's pretty tough. Blank blue eyes found his. The tribe was burning. She said she'd buy us time to escape. The girl shivered. I heard a scream as we went through. Her scream. Pro swore and took another drink. Shit. Ray was a complicated person, to say the least, but at the end of the day she was still family. Whatever she'd become by the end, they were still blood. They'd had good times together. There was a time when he trusted her to watch his back as no one else could. And to learn that she'd need him. Oh, gods. Yang. Dread writhed within his gut. She was still trying to find Raven. What would he tell her? Nothing. Absolutely not. Tai, well, he didn't have much choice there, but Yang. Not a chance in hell. Ignorance was bliss. He shoved the thought away and called for another drink. Whiskey for him and water for the runts. I'm sorry. The boy rasped, voice gone hoarse. If we'd been stronger, we could have. Don't be thinking like that. Crow silenced him with a raised hand. If something took her out, neither of you would have stood a chance. A stray thought tugged at him as he considered the unlikely duo before him. Red eyes squinted. Raven cared for few things in this world, strength and survival chief among them. She wasn't the sort to take in 2 runs unless it benefited her. Was that her angle? Had she been training up new bloods when the tribe was attacked? Moreover, why get them to safety at all? It hurt him to admit it, but his sister was a bit of a bitch, a coward. If something attacked the tribe and she couldn't fight it off, she'd be the first to run. And yet she had stayed, giving her life to ensure these two made it to safety. So? He smacked his lips. Why did she bail you two out over everyone else? I'm sensing a story there. The girl looked away. The boy prodded her with an elbow. No. She snapped at him. Stop it. The boy hissed. Cinder. Pro latched onto it, rolling it over in his mind. Aha. At last, he had a name to work with. Now he just needed the boys. Really, kid looked like a mini Taeyang if you ignored the whiskers. Another thought punched through his drunken stupor. The girl had long, dark hair. Raven's hair. Her eyes were gold, which suggested a different parentage, but the boy blonde hair and blue eyes. Raven always had a thing for blondes. Surely they weren't. Unless they were. Battles as it was, Crow's mind leaped to the most logical conclusion. Something twisted in his heart and he felt his throat close. Did he have another niece and a nephew? Cinder, was it? Look, he set his glass down, rattling the ice within. Listen to your friend. I'm not gonna hurt you. Finally, the girl looked at him. Her eyes burned. Literally burned with molten flames of purest gold. If you do, she whispered, I'll kill you. Scarlet slits bulged. Crow had seen many a strange thing in his day. Monsters. Magic, things that would curdle your blood. But this took the cake, ran away with it, and ate it to boot. As such, he felt he could be forgiven for what followed. You see, Crow made a complete and utter ass of himself. He tried to stand only for the stool to buckle under him, blasted semblance. Sending him pitching backward. Unfortunately, the boy mistook that for an aggressive move and dove on him, driving him down to the floor. Aura crackled sullenly and 9 golden chains stabbed at his clothes, pinning him in place. Don't move. Crow couldn't have if he tried. His mind was too busy whirling. The maiden. It all made sense now. Small wonder Salem had come from them. Raven would have died to keep spring from her. At least he assumed this was spring. Fall, winter, and summer were all accounted for. Yeah. Had to be her. His mind concocted a story eerily close to the truth. Raven had spirited her children away, and the maiden with them. Even a grumpy old bird would protect their young aunts. Oz would have to be told. But first. Look. He raised both hands, showing himself harmless. You have nothing to fear from me. I mean it. Now put those things away before you get hurt, runt. My name, his would-be killer growled, is not boy. I'm Naruto. Still the lad eyed him like a king to Jiddu. Why should I believe you? The bleary grin stretched across Crow's face. Naruto. Ray always was horrible when it came to names. Well. Best be out with it, then. Crow rolled his eyes and transformed in a swarm of feathers, unbalancing the blonde. Bereft of balance, Naruto crashed to the floor. Credit where it was due, he recovered quickly. Those strange chains of his stabbed down and whirled him around to face an attack that never came. Crow lighted upon counter and changed back, grinning from ear to ear. What kind of uncle would I be if I attacked my own niece and nephew? He tittered a little when Per exchanged a baffled look. Come on, I ain't that bad. Still. A maiden. His mind whirled with the revelation. Best get these two out of sight, and quickly. Salem might have eyes in Atlas. Look, it's too late for us to catch a flight out of here. I'm staying in a hotel nearby. You two can bunk with me for the night. Cinder bridled. You're not our. Naruto clamped a hand over her mouth before she could finish. Maybe the kid wasn't so bad after all. He understood. Family was family. You couldn't choose who you were related to. And then what? Still suspicious, though. Points for that. What happens tomorrow? Then I'll take you somewhere safe." He hopped down to the floor and sidled up to them. "You have my word." The girl looked at him like he'd grown another head. "Nowhere is safe." "Liz," he retorted. "I know just the place to put you two up." I was going to flip, to say nothing of Yang. Ruby, well, they were both young. They'd get over it. The boy snorted. "So what do we call you then?" Shit, he'd never given them his name, had he? Crow. He offered the boy his hand. Just Crow. Naruto tilted his head. Cinder mirrored him. "Uncle Crow?" "Ack. His heart. Don't go calling me that. Only my nieces are allowed ta." Naruto raised a finger. "But you just said we're family." "You make a good point. Have you lost your mind?" It was too much to hope Cinder wouldn't explode. Still, Naruto had hoped she'd have the good sense not to do so while they were following Crow. Apparently not. Muffled laughter told him their newly appointed guardian heard every word. And more than a few passerby besides. He felt a rare spot of color flare hit his cheeks. "Alright, I guess we're doing this now." Warm and snug in a new cloak, say what you would about Crow, but he spent his lean well. He reached out and tucked his fellow fugitive into his side. Cinder fought him for all of a moment before she leaned into him. The anger in her eyes didn't abate, however. It simply fixated on him. In his heart of hearts he knew she wouldn't let this go without a fight. "He's not our uncle." She hissed in his ear. "Why did you tell him that? If he finds out. Then it changes nothing. And besides, he may as well be." He shortened his strike, keeping the surly birds back in his sights as he allowed him to fall out of earshot. "Raven took us in. If really is her brother, then he'll keep us safe until we figure out a plan. And you?" Blue eyes flicked her up and down. "How do you feel?" Cinder scowled. "I feel like smacking you." "No, not that." He gestured to her eyes. "You know what I mean." Cinder gazed down at her hands. Her eyes burned with beautiful flames as she considered her palms. Naruto felt a change in the wind just then, the warmth of spring trying and failing to push aside the perpetual chill of a never-ending Elysian winter. It guttered out a moment later as she lost control of it. "Powerful." When she finally spoke, there was a rare note of awe lingering in her words. "I feel like a god. Once I master it." "Cinder, no." Naruto grabbed her by the wrist. "Don't go thinking like that. You're not a god." Something dangerous flashed in her eyes. It withered and died a moment later as she came back to herself. "You're right," she muttered, hugging her arms to herself. "It's just so much." "I'm here." He patted her shoulder. "Lean on me if you need to, alright." She flashed him a tentative smile. Her head kissed his shoulder. "I think I'll take you up on that offer." "We're staying here?" Cinder eyed the hotel's name with naked contempt. The glass unicorn. Why did she have the worst feeling about this? She didn't like this hotel, and the interior only further confirmed her suspicions. For starters, it was too damn large. A luxurious multi-story building that dominated the street and promised to be even larger within. Hosting a towering 5 floors beyond the lobby, its roof looked to be forged of volcanic glass, a rare commodity here in Atlas. The exterior walls were an ungodly golden brown in color, and it bore red carpets leading toward the entrance. Cinder took a deep breath, then followed Naruto and Crow inside. Much to her chagrin, the hotel lobby lived up to its namesake and then some. For it hosted towering glass sculptures of creatures of Grimm, including Ursai, sea Feilongs, Sabers, and Beowulfs. Each poised as though to strike. They looked real. Almost too real. Someone had gone to great lengths to make it so, eschewing safety and sense of the sake of imposing awe and fear upon their guests. It worked a little too well. She shivered at the sight of them. This was a bad place. All dark shadow lurking under a friendly smile. Crow must have sensed their hesitation because a red eye glanced over his shoulder. "Don't worry." His rough voice soothed her fraying nerves. "I'll get us checked in. Be right back." He left her with Naruto, who looked just as discomfited as Cinder felt. There was a hard look to his eyes now as his gaze swept the parlor, one that hadn't been there before. She nudged a little closer to him and grabbed at his hand, lacing her fingers with his. "I don't like this place." "Me neither." He muttered. "We stick together, alright." Cinder dared a nod and held fast to his arm, not trusting herself to speak. Her gaze roamed the vacant lobby, searching for a distraction. Something, anything, to take her mind off the imposing statues. She found a young girl working some yards away, scrubbing floors. At a glance she wasn't much to look at. Dark skin and rust-red hair, her lithe little body wrapped up in a white uniform. Faint patches on her skin confirmed her as a faunus. Cinder frowned at her. "Is that?" Said frown deepened as she beheld the necklace dangling from the girl's throat and the golden jewel within. They'd made her wear a collar. Not just any collar. A shock collar. She'd seen them make before back in the tribe. Raven had used a similar device on a rowdy prisoner they'd held for ransom. Once. Never again. Just looking at her made the blood boil in her veins. She nudged Naruto. He followed her gaze, saw what she saw, and sighed. He knew what she wanted without asking, such was their bond. It was he who approached her first. "What's your name, Squirt?" Her skin flushed. "Ilia, sir." Looking back, it was that moment. That meeting. The choice that followed. Surely the gods were crazy. Yes, they must be. Else they would have prevented the disaster that followed. You Atlas elite are all the same. You think hoarding power means you'll have it forever, but it just makes the rest of us hungrier. And I refuse to starve. You dare touch me? I am a citizen of Atlas, you churl. And I am Cinder. Future. Blood price. Ilia kept her head down as she worked. Clean the linens, sweep the floors, shut your mouth and do your chores. She muttered the word softly to herself, shoulders trembling. Scrub the dishes in the sink. No one said that you should think. A lone tear ran down her tan face as she scrubbed the floor. Shine the silver, wash the clothes, and when you're finished darn the socks. She chanted the words she'd heard so many times, a mindless mantra to herself as she worked to distract herself, draw the bath, fetch her slippers, fill her glass and wash her feet. Hurry up. You're so slow. You're no good, I hope you know. Your life is of no use, and the truth is that no one's ever loved you. She cooked. She cleaned. She did as she was told. She obeyed. You see, she had to. She must. She owed her mistress everything. Without her, she was nothing. Lady Tremaine had taken her off the streets when no one else would. Lady Tremaine was harsh, and her daughters even more so, but they gave her a roof over her head and at least one meal a day. They only shocked her when they were in a bad mood or when she wasn't quick enough. She was a good girl. Surely that was enough. Ilia renewed her scrubbing anew and tried not to dwell on it. And yet she longed for more, even as she cleaned. Cleaned the floors. She hungered for it as only a child could. Dreamed of a life outside these four walls. A life beyond the perpetual cold of Atlas, the life her parents had promised her before the accident. Before everything went wrong. A life in a warm, happy place far, far away from here. Ilia didn't hear the approaching footsteps until it was nearly too late. Until they were all but upon her. "We'll be staying here for the night," a rough voice drawled. "Make yourselves comfortable." She looked up and saw the hunters. What else could they be? For a moment, her cleaning faltered. She beheld a blue-eyed blonde boy and a young woman with striking golden eyes, famed by dark hair. Only she carried visible weapons. Though it could be said that the boy looked like a fighter through and through. There was an older man leading the two of them, and he wore a great monster of a blade upon his back. Guests nodded at the trio's passing, bowing just so. One of them, the woman, saw her and pointed. Ilia squeaked and hunched her shoulders inward, trying to make herself as small as possible. Maybe if she blended in with her surroundings they'd let her be. No such luck. What did they want with her? It was the blonde who approached her first. "What's your name, Squirt?" Her skin flushed. "Ilia, sir." "Here." The girl pulled a field ration from her belt. "You look hungry. Eat." Her hands betrayed her, and she all but ripped it from her hands. Her eyes stung as she chewed on the protein bar. She was still gnawing on it when the blonde said something she wasn't quite sure what, but whatever it was ended with him giving her his rations too. She grabbed at the lot of them and shoved them into her pockets. These were real hunters, nothing like those brutes who worked for Lady Tremaine. Not at all like the large man with the twin maces. Ilia didn't like him. He spoke of law and order as if he knew them. Truth and justice like he embodied them. But what justice was there for a little Francis girl? "Boy." The older man called ahead of them. "Naruto. Cinder. Let's go. Our room's ready." The pair lingered for a moment, looking like they wanted to say more, do more, but they hesitated. Ilia gulped down her meal and turned silver eyes upon them. "Will you still be here come morning?" Naruto winced. "Just for a little bit." "Come on." Their minder called. They departed with a rueful look and a promise to speak with her again. She watched them go, trying to fight down the spark in her heart. True hunters. That was what they were. True hunters fought injustice wherever they found it. She wanted to be just like these two. She wanted to go with them, even if she wasn't brave enough to say it. But they were only staying for a night. They'd be gone tomorrow with the dawn, surely. Ilia looked left. Ilia looked right, now. Ilia scarpered to her feet and ran for her room. That night, the little Francis prayed to the shattered moon. She prayed to the gods above and below as she'd never prayed before. She begged and cajoled and pleaded like the child she was. She prayed they would stay, even if only for one more day. She'd go without food for that entire day and wouldn't shirk her chores. Not even a little. She just wanted to hold on to this spark of happiness for a little longer. Ilia prayed until she couldn't stay awake anymore. She kept praying, even in her dreams. Something answered her. A freak blizzard hit Atlas overnight. It came with neither word nor warning and struck without mercy. Like the very wrath of the gods themselves. While the denizens of the floating city slept, streets turned to ice and snow-smothered buildings. Power lines were weighed down until they snapped. Half the city lost electricity overnight. Many a denizen of the glass unicorn woke to cold beds and chattering teeth. Many, but not all. Here in this moment, Cinder had never been more grateful for semblance. Naruto apparently felt the same. Seeing as he was all but pressed against her for warmth. Best semblance ever. He muttered. You feel like a furnace. Cinder preened a little. Using her gift in such an simple manner burned through her aura at a ludicrous rate, but she had her newfound maiden powers to draw from. They did not for her aura, but they helped to supplement what would have been merely a flickering flame in the lobby. Instead she found herself with a raging flame cupped between her palms, gentle and controlling like her temper as they waited for her escort. The flame in her hands flared, responding to her temper. Careful. Naruto warned as he nestled closer to her. Don't lose control. She scoffed and returned her attention to the fire within. I won't if you keep quiet. Thanks to that they alone were warm, while the rest of the guests huddled in their rooms. Now if that drunken bird would hurry up and get back here, they could be gone from this place. She wanted to hope that. Believe it. Even as it looked less and less likely. The storm was still howling outside, and without heat, it only grew colder within. You know, he murmured, nuzzling her cheek. You act tough, but you're really just a big softy. Cinder stomped on his foot. Ow. He yelped out a laugh. That was a compliment. Her face flamed for a different reason altogether, cheeks warming beneath his praise. Thank you. That was, she struggled with a word for a moment before she got the better of it, very sweet of you. So? He wanted to play that way, did he? Well. Two could play at this game. Shifting the flame to her right hand, Cinder leaned over and pressed her hip to his. Naruto shifted a little on the couch, eyes widening just so. He tried to scoot back, but he hooked a leg in his to keep him from doing so. Then she leaned in and kissed his cheek. Naruto sputtered. Worth it. My, what's wrong? She cooed. Whatever happened to your silver tongue? He looked around, flailing for an answer and found one. Hey, there's Ilia. Naruto saw her and waved. Aren't you cold? Come on over. The little girl saw them across the hall. Just as Cinder saw the spark of hope flash through her face. I have chores. Is that so? She held out her cupped hands. Wouldn't you be better able to do them if you were warm? Fear and greed warred across the child's face. In the end the latter won out. She scampered over. Naruto shared a look with Cinder as she did. They'd discussed this last night. No girl should wear a shock collar disguised as a necklace. To his credit, Naruto waited until Ilia was distracted. Lost in the flaring flame and the heat it provided. The tiny child sighed, luxuriating in the open warmth provided by their flame. Golden eyes flicked to blue. Narrowed. Then he moved. Yoink. Ilia made a tiny noise of surprise but not discontent. As his hand closed around her collar. She didn't have time for anything more than that before Naruto ripped it free. Her body jolted once. A stray spark shot into his palm and then the device fell dead. Her face went ghost white. No. Give it back. Naruto held it upright as she tried to jump up and grab it. Why? I have to wear that. She hopped again, coming well short. I'll be punished if I don't. You shouldn't be. Cinder stifled the heat in her palms and rounded on her, just as they'd practiced. No one should wear a collar. Ilia made a keening noise, her knees twisted left then right in thinly veiled anxiety. But I have Tomi mistress will beat me if I don't. Naruto absolutely hissed. Mistress. Cinder's snarl joined his, causing Ilia to clam up. She was still struggling with her words when the mains doors crashed open. A mighty swirl of wintry wind whipped in, chilling them to the bone. Crow staggered in after it, covered in frost from head to toe. A booted foot shot out and kicked the door closed behind him, sealing them shut against all the ice and snow once more. He cast a baleful glare back the way he'd come, as though trying to thaw the storm with the sheer heat of his glare. No ice, kiddos. He shook himself like a wet dog, spraying ice everywhere. Storm's not letting up. All flights air grounded. He trailed off when he saw Ilia's collar dangling in Naruto's grasp. Blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. Boy. His brow turned stormy. I was only gone for an hour. We didn't do anything. Cinder interposed before the drunken huntsman could vent his wrath. Yeah. Naruto rallied and presented the collar necklace as evidence. Someone was making this poor girl wear a ow. His right arm spasmed, near on convulsing as the item in his hand delivered a powerful shock. He grit his teeth against it and adjusted his grip holding it by the cord rather than the crystal. Cinder applauded him for his restraint. She would have broken it outright. But Naruto held on. He kept his temper in check, choosing to preserve the evidence rather than indulge in petty self-satisfaction. Just another reason why she no. Don't say it out loud. He'd never let her live it down. See. he exclaimed, snapping her back to reality as he brandished the device in Crow's face like a whip. Shock collar. Cinder preened a little as Crow's gaze snapped at Ilia. That true? The chameleon faunus quailed beneath his glare. Yes sir. Crow fell silent. Cinder retreated half a step, still wary. In the end she needn't have. Because Branwin only sighed. Nope. He smacked his lips with a shake of the head. Not having it. She's coming with us. Ilia squeaked. I am. Naruto grinned. Is that legal? I'll make it legal. Crow slammed his flask back and took a long draught to settle his temper. What are they gonna do, stop us? He scoffed. We've got the evidence right there. He pulled a leather pouch from his belt and swept the offending item inside. Come on. We'll find another hotel to stay in. Cinder smiled at the sight. Maybe you're not so bad after all. Just like that. Ilia's voice warbled once. Why me? Foolish. She didn't need a reason to free someone. Everyone has the right to be free. Are you hugging me? The little girl didn't let go of Cinder's leg. Not once, even as she bawled. Naruto cooed somewhere behind her. His scroll flashed once, taking a picture. Cinder absolutely hissed. Delete that at once. Nope. Naruto stowed it inside a pocket, his gaze seeking Ilia's once more. You got anything you want to take with you? She perked up. I have a few shiny things I've collected, nothing really important. Then you won't mind leaving them. He planted a palm against her back and steered her towards the exit. With a bit of luck and speed, we'll get you out of here before anyone's the wiser. Crow grumbled under his breath. Not with my luck. He was still speaking when a door crashed open in the lower foyer and a woman wrapped in an obscene amount of finery hurtled through. Flanked by two girls who could only be her daughters alongside a pair of guards in dark leather, she tried to cut an imposing figure and failed spectacularly. Cinder wrinkled her nose at her. Ugly old hag. See? The elder Branwin flung up his arms. Nothing's ever easy. You, there. She took one look at the lot of them and planted one fist on her hip even as the other stabbed a finger forward. Release that girl at once. She belongs to me. Cinder's gaze zeroed in on the woman. Or rather, the remote clutched in her hand. Didn't take much to put two and two together. Her smile became sly. Whatever do you have there? The woman bridled for a brief moment, then rallied. That is none of your concern. She concealed the item behind her back and raised her chin in haughty defiance. I am a law-abiding citizen of Atlas. I pay my taxes and treat my employees fairly. Ilia wailed. That's a lie. Her employer scoffed. Come along now, or I'll be forced to reconsider the terms of your employment. Ilia hung her head. No. Lady Tremaine frowned. I beg your pardon. No. Ilia's head snapped up, silver eyes blaze. You're awful. I don't want to be here anymore. The remote flicked out. You will do as you are told. Too late, she noticed the missing necklace. A blade fiked out under her chin, cutting her short. Cinder blinked, somewhat taken aback. It didn't belong to her, Naruto. You're a real piece of work, you know that. Crow Branwin advanced upon her, forcing her to step back lest he open her throat. I've seen your kind before. Say it. She gulped and he growled at her, a deep and throaty sound that had no business coming from a human throat. Explain yourself. An arm swept back to the quivering Ilia. Tell me why you were ready to shock a little girl. Go on. We're listening. Lady Tremaine faltered. You're a huntsman. You wouldn't dare kill me. Naruto started forward, but Crow's chortle stopped him. About thought you've never been a very good hunter. The main door clicked open behind them. She must have seen something behind him just then. For her face turned smug. Rhodes? She cried. Thank goodness you're here. These hooligans are trying to rob me. Crow whirled. Now wait just a minute. He was still speaking when a vicious mace slammed into his ribs and launched him across the room. Lady Tremaine flicked a glance at her guards. Take the girl. Kill the others. One of them flung a knife. Cinder twisted and shielded Ilia with her body. Blood splashed across the floor. Silence swelled in the hotel. Ilia looked up. Ma'am? With trembling eyes she beheld Cinder's wound. So did Naruto. A switch flipped in the back of his mind. Return my merchandise at once. Lady Tremaine was braying at them, her words an endless animal bleat. She is mine to do with as I please. Something dark stirred within him. All of you. Let go. Every one of you. Yes. Let go of it all. Each and every last one of you. Just let go of everything. So he did. Blue eyes snapped into fury, slitted scarlet. Anger took hold, muffling all else. He stalked forward, eyes set upon the sneering shrews. 9 chakra chains burst from his back, writhing like so many tails. They found the first daughter and tore her limb from limb. Nothing remained of her. Only shredded clothing. Her sibling shrieked, turning to run. She made it all of 2 steps before he caught her. His chains reeled her into his grasp. His hands closed around her head and ripped. An awful crack filled the room and he flung her severed head aside to join her sister's body. Here at last, the mistress realized her own peril. You can't do this. I am a respected citizen of Atlas. And I. Cinder raised her wounded arm, middle finger and thumb pressed together. Am. Her eyes flashed. Cinder. She snapped her fingers. Just like that, Lady Tremaine went up in flame. Her body burst into a pillar of fire, a blaze so hot that it swallowed her screams before they could be born. Then it began to spread. Cinder snarled and snapped her fingers a second time, a third, a fourth, a fifth now. And the fire latched onto the floor, the carpet, the ceiling. She didn't stop until the guests fled from their rooms, until Naruto hauled her back, until the entire hotel was ablaze. Burn it all. Burn them all. Burn this rotten world. They're criminals. They didn't do anything wrong. Crow wiped a thin line of blood from his mouth as he climbed to his feet. Ugh. Bastard hit like a truck. If you were in their shoes, you would have done the same. It doesn't change what happened. The law is the law. They're family. Crow raised his weapon, keeping himself between them. Don't do this, Rhodes. Walk away. Now. Don't make me fight you. Left unspoken was a more dire threat. Don't make me kill you. Rhodes lunged. Crow mouthed and it ended. Parry. Duck. Sweep his legs, strike, pierce his aura. But it would end that way, wouldn't it? Rhodes wouldn't stop. Bastard was relentless like that. He'd always been a stubborn one, more hard-headed than he was a huntsman. Crow did what he had to do. It ended as all things in his life did, with him standing over a bloody body, consumed with regret. Damn it. He growled and tore Harbinger free. Look what you made me do. It didn't have to end like this. Uncle Crow. He turned, blood on his blade. Saw the ruin they had wrought inside. He pulled out his scroll and dialed a familiar number. His fingers fumbled at the keys, failed once, twice, then tried again. Third time was the charm. He'd never live this down. Forget Ozpin, the man on the other end would hold this over his head for eternity. Someone picked up immediately. Hey, Jimmy, he received a low growl, and his wince redoubled. Got a bit of a problem here involving a maiden. I need a favor. How good are you at getting away with murder? In the end, all Iron did as he asked. If only because he had no choice. No one wanted their secrets revealed. Perhaps it was an abuse of power on his part. No, it definitely was. But he couldn't bring himself to care. James and Oz could cover this up. By the time the finger-pointing started, he'd be long gone. In all likelihood he wouldn't be able to show his face around these parts ever again. Never liked Atlas anyway. Let's go. He said instead. Storm's probably let up by now. Credit where it was due. Naruto and Cinder followed him without hesitation. He didn't miss the blood on them. His niece and nephew were no strangers to murder. But little Ilia was. She all but clung to Cinder's skirts as they slipped outside. Where are we going? Crow looked over his shoulder, regarding the teenagers and the little girl who had thrown her fate in with airs. Three brats looking to him for answers in a world that had none. Wasn't right. Wasn't fair that they had to see the ugly side of the world at such a young age. Damn his semblance. Damn it to hell. There was only one safe haven he could think of. A terribly familiar place indeed. Home. He said at last. Pretty sure my nieces are gonna love you. As luck would have it, he was half right. Congrats. They're yours. What the actual hell? This is your semblance at work, I just know it. Nope. This is all you. I was in the wrong place at the right time. Have fun. Crow and tie. Blood of my blood. No. You're not my sister. Cheeky little. I didn't even ask to be your sibling. Their rival went about as well as one might expect where two teens and two little girls were involved. In a word. Poorly. And yet despite all that, or perhaps in spite of it, Naruto found himself smiling as leaned against a wall and he watched little Yang squabble with Cinder. In the face of the stubborn tyke's ire, his comrade's calm demeanor had cracked wide open, revealing her true fiery nature for all to see. It was kinda cute to see her flustered like this, to see her real self under the facade she worked so hard to erect in public. Yang had made the mistake of tugging her hair. Big mistake, that. Cinder loved her hair. From there on out, it was war. He supposed Crow was to blame for this after all. Blasted surly bird had dragged all the way out here to patch, kicked the door down, dumped them in the living room with only the briefest of explanations, and gone upstairs with some Taeyang fellow. Naruto hadn't even got a good look at the man before Branwin dragged him off by the ear. Whoever he was clearly Yang's fatherhood. Concern dawned and realization with it. Did Crow think they were? Big brother? A small voice asked. Why do you look so sad? The tiny hand tugged at his sleeve. It didn't belong to Ilia. He knew for a fact that was sleeping comfortably on the couch, utterly exhausted from the flight over. Which meant. Naruto looked down. A pair of wide silver eyes looked up at him without fear. Little Ruby Rose gazed back at him, why are they fighting? He flicked a gaze back at Cinder and Yang, just in time to see the former pluck the latter up by the scruff of her neck as one might a naughty puppy. Yang went absolutely berserk, screaming and failing with all her might to no avail. Cinder looked nothing short of smug. He supposed he could leave them to it. Well, he guess everyone fights from time to time. Cinder snarled as the little blonde managed to drive a fist into her arm. She let Yang go with a pained noise and her victim tumbled to the floor. Yang stomped a foot. I said no. You're not family. Young Ruby raised a tiny hand. I dunno, they seem nice. Screw that. Yang scowled at Cinder and kicked at her heel. You're not my sister. Her eyes flicked to Naruto, saw Ruby holding onto his sleeve. You're alright, though. You look like daddy. Naruto's throat closed. Herk. He could feel Cinder's glare boring into his back. She was giving him all the evils. He could tell them the truth of course. Because he was damn certain Taeyang wasn't his father. He couldn't be. After all, they weren't even from the same world. He might not know who his parents were, but he was certain Taeyang Xiaolong was not one of the. And yet. Ruby's lower lip trembled, eyes damp with unshed tears. Is that a no? Ack. His heart. How could you say no to a face like that? Naruto palmed his face as he felt his resolve crumble. Sure, he all but groaned into a palm. I'll be your brother. Ruby latched onto him with a happy chirrup. Yay. In hindsight, he was doomed from the start. But maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Now where in blazes had the adults run off to? Revenge did. Taeyang staggered into a wall, looking like he'd been stabbed. Crow gave him some credit where it was due, the blonde bastard didn't faint. He was too strong for that. But only just. His old friend looked like he'd just been told the world was ending. And yet there was something more to that look, more than mere sadness and sorrow. Bloody hell, the man looked like he'd seen a ghost. When? He croaked out the word. No, never mind. The blonde brawler palmed his face. I need a drink. Not with the kids downstairs. Crow rammed him up against a wall and pinned him there with an arm. Get a grip. It was a cold day in hell when he was advocating for sobriety. Never again, still, when Ty looked away he caught a flash of guilt in his eyes. You're hiding something. Spill it. Revenge come back a time or two. After she left. He forced the words from himself, sounding physically pained at the memory. Usually for a night. Or when she was drunk. Never when Yang or Ruby were around, he amended once he saw his thunderous expression. She could always sense when they were nearby. Fucking hell, Ty. Anger gave life to a snarl. And you didn't think to tell Yang. What was I supposed to say? He rounded on him, eyes wild. Sorry sweetie, mommy doesn't feel like coming back, but she wants some nookie. Crow felt the air tense, a live wire ready to snap. Hey. Don't go using your semblance. He hissed as the man's muscles began to bulge beneath his shirt. You wanna wreck the house all over again. For a wild moment he thought Ty would ignore him and fly into a towering rage. He often did on the rare occasion when he lost his temper. His semblance was a dangerous at the least and outright volatile at worst, a tool he seldom used. The angrier he became, the stronger he grew. It was part of what had attracted Raven in the first and later summer for opposite reasons. Now his old friend deflated, a shell of his former self. He gripped a trembling fist and the light in his eyes receded. I pushed her away the first few times. But she was so damn persistent. How did you respond to something like that? I tried, you know. He groaned into one hand. Each time she came back, I tried to convince her to stay. A rueful chuckle escaped him. How do you convince someone who can't portal away the drop of a hat? I couldn't chain her down. Gods know I tried. Just like that, the light left his eyes. And now she's dead. Just like Summer. Another life lost in Ozpin's war. Crow found himself clapping him on the shoulder. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, she went down fighting to protect those kids. And now they came back to the meat of the matter. They can't be mine. Taeyang sounded beyond broken when he replied. They just can't. They're older than Yang and Ruby. That was the only reason they weren't having this conversation with Harbinger. So the two of you didn't for. What? Tai took the shove like a man. In that he barely stumbled against it. What kind of question is that? Tai. Alright, just let me think. He paced away, paused, and considered almost immediately. Well, there was that time she disappeared for a year back in Beacon, but we'd only it hadn't been he frowned. Counted on his fingers. Or maybe it was. The silence was telling. Shit. Crow slapped his forehead. She never did tell us where she went. Think she ditched them first. Before Yang. The tan man turned deathly pale. Raven wouldn't abandon her kids to the tribe. The dark brow rose. We thought she wouldn't do a lot of things, Tai. I could really use that drink right about now. They both could, but no, they needed to be responsible, if only for today. Look, the kid has blonde hair and blue eyes for crying out loud. He thumbed his chin, considering it. No idea about the whiskers marks, though. Maybe a birthmark. The Yang made frustrated Taeyang noises, but brought himself under control. And the girl. Yeah, Crow grimaced, that's where things got murky. She's got Ray's attitude for sure, her hair too. His teammate flailed for an excuse and found none. But the eyes. Crow found himself shrugging. Look, they might not be yours by blood, or they might not be. But. He held up a finger. One way or another they are her kids. Gotta be. If they ain't, I'll eat my boot. The weary father looked away. Crow slugged his shoulder. Ty. Alright. He warded him off with a hand before he could thump him upside the arm again. It's just a lot to take in, never mind the girl they brought with them. No way she's hers. Nah, here at last, Crow felt the ghost of a smile return to his craggy visage. They stole that little chameleon out of a hotel and adopted her. The Yang's jaw clicked open. Closed. Opened again. What? Look, it's a long story and part of the reason we're here. I'll tell you over drink sometime. How did they adopt her? Taeyang flailed his arms. They're not even 18. You want to tell a maiden no? Be my guest. So it's true, then. She's definitely. That's why we need the drinks. Wait. If they're hers and she's Ganito's that make them my responsibility, now. Good man. Crow slapped his back. You know how it is. And so the misunderstanding continued. When the stairs creaked, Naruto and Cinder both jolted. Ilia slept like the grave on the couch, blissfully ignorant to it all. Ruby and Yang looked up, argument all but forgotten in the wake of their return. Crow was the first down the stairs, wearing a pensive look. So, runts. He said apropos of nothing, there's someone I'd like you to meet. He stepped aside and swept an arm out. Yang stepped past them, looking like a man marching to his funeral. Naruto and Cinder exchanged a baffled look and shrugged. Is he someone important? How little they knew. Cinder finally cornered him later that night. Naruto hardly noticed when she crawled into his bunk at first. Although to be fair, perhaps that was his own fault. He was feeling pretty damn dazed at the moment. He'd barely remembered to tuck Ilia into one of the guest beds. Honestly, that silly girl could sleep through anything before falling in one himself. The little Francis would no doubt be a bundle of energy tomorrow after all the napping she'd done, but that was a bridge he would cross when it came to it. Taeyang didn't have much in the way of space, but at least the guest beds were cozy. Golden eyes met his in the dark. Are you awake? The blue eye creaked open. I am now. Cinder needed no further prodding. She squirmed into the covers with him and laid her head against his chest. An angry little huff fled from her lips. I'm beginning to think stupidity is contagious. Maybe. He looped an arm around her shoulder, holding her close. That wasn't what I expected. She huffed and gave his chest a light smack. He thinks we're his kids. Well, I do kinda look like him. Naruto didn't look up from the bed he lay sprawled out in. You too, minus the whole golden eye thing. When she didn't answer, he loosed a sigh of his own. Does it matter? They'll help us, and honestly, we kinda need it. She huffed and turned away from him. There's no one else in the world I care about. Only us. We're the only ones who matter. Is that so? Naruto quirked a brow, unable to keep a smile from his face. 'Cause I saw you playing with Ruby. Lies. She hissed through her teeth and wouldn't look his way. You saw nothing. And what about little Ilia? He prodded. Don't you care about her? Cinder made angry cinder noises. They'll be afraid of me in time, just like the rest. She tucked her head into him, refusing to meet his gaze. You probably think I'm a monster too. She crossed both arms before her chest, body gone stiff against his like a broken doll. Go on, admitted. No. Not this again. He wasn't letting her sink back into depression. Nope. Cinder gave him an evil look. No. Not that again. Nope. I'm serious. Cease that drivel at once. Nope. Naruto reached down into the blankets, found her hands, laced his fingers with hers and held tight. Not happening. She made a frustrated noise when his forehead kissed hers. You're safe now, so there's nothing to worry about. And besides, a crooked smile touched the corner of his mouth. If you have any nightmares, I'll just chase them away. Her pale face lit slow, from her neck to her chin, followed by her cheeks and nose, then finally her forehead. Bolt. She looked away with a snarl. You're soft. Naruto absorbed the full force of her words and for once, stopped smiling. Nah, I figured it out. Cinder squinted at him. Figured what out? Your problem. He sat up slowly, reminding her of a lazy fox she'd once seen sunning itself. It isn't me that's got you so riled up. It's this. A finger thrust forth and jabbed her hard in the head, eliciting an annoyed whine from her. You're afraid. Terrified, really. Of all this. She squawked. I most certainly am not. You are. The blonde's head bobbed in disagreement. You need to let that fear die. When she flinched he reached out and caught her by the wrist. So that fear will no longer control you. Fear of pain, fear of loss, and here he saw a spark of something flash through her face, fear of betrayal, even. He offered her his hand, palm splayed for her to grasp at her leisure. She just had to reach out. Cinder shifted ever so slightly, scooting closer. You're strong now, just like you were always meant to be. Naruto kept his hand out, waiting for her to come to him. Who you become from here on out. That's your choice. I can only help you make it. I know you're not fond of your name. Cinder. He chortled a little when her brow darkened. A mockery of Cinderella. But to me? Her fingers curled around his. He took the chance to tug her closer. Cinder is perfect. He patted her cheek, unafraid as her eyes blazed with golden flame. No one is ever going to hurt you again. She sniffled. What makes you so sure? His arms enfolded her in a fierce hug and she froze, her defiance crumbling. His chin came down on her shoulder, all but locking her in place. Because, and although she couldn't see his expression, he willed her to feel the fervor of his words all the same, I won't let them. His arm squeezed her a little more. Stop worrying about what might happen and just enjoy the present, alright. A faint hiccup trailed through the tale. Someone betrayed you once, didn't they? Now wasn't that an old memory? Someone had, though he barely thought of Mizuki anymore, much less dwelt on it. Naruto drew back and held her at arm's length. She watched him. He watched her right back. She probably expected ire, a flash of raw anger, something hurtful. Instead she received a smile. Yup. He said candidly. Some cheeky teacher thought he could use me to steal a scroll. Cinder's breath caught in her throat. What happened? He grinned. Kicked his ass with 1,000 clones. In hindsight, he really couldn't be blamed for what came next. He expected a scathing retort, some cutting comment. He received tears. It was too much. She warbled and broke. I don't deserve you. Course you do. We're partners, aren't we? Promise me. She whispered. Promise me you'll never betray me. Sure. He held out his pinky finger. Speaking of promises, how do you feel about Beacon in a few years? The next morning, Crow took them to meet the man behind it all. Apparently said man was the headmaster of Beacon. Who knew? Cinder realized it a beat before Naruto did late as the elevator opened. Was this a trap? She tried to dig her heels in, but Crow wasn't having it. He placed a hand between each of their shoulders and nudged them forward. A man with graying hair waited them in the room beyond, sat behind a desk with a lonely cane resting against it. He looked up at their arrival and favored them with a careworn smile. Welcome. His voice had an almost pleasant hum to it, one that instantly put her on edge. You must be exhausted. Care for some tea? Crow coughed into a fist. Oz, it's kinda early. Let's just get this out of the way so they can relax for the rest of the day. Naruto clicked his tongue. Cinder scoffed. They weren't that young. Very well. Much to Cinder's chagrin the headmaster turned his head just so and favored her with a wrought iron stare. Dear girl, you're the spring maiden, are you not? Cinder's jaw snapped shut with an audible click. How do you know? I created the maidens. He chortled softly even as they tensed. I know their power better than any other. If that's true, her eyes flashed with flame. You can teach me to control it. Can't you? I can, his head bobbed, if that is what you wish. Now wait just a second. Naruto stepped up beside her. We barely know you, and you're already offering to help us. Oz is like that. Crow laid a hand on his shoulder. He's done right by me before. Trust me, he'll do the same for you. Cinder didn't much trust the surly bird, but if the old sage was offering what he thought he has. I'll show you how to master your gifts. Both of you. His gaze slid to Naruto. With my training, I dare say the two of you will be untouchable. Fire flared in Cinder's heart. It was all she'd ever wanted. To be strong, not solely for herself, but for the sake of the one she held most dear. She was plenty powerful now, but if the headmaster of Beacon himself trained them, taught them, mentored them, they'd be powerful beyond imagination. Yes. Cinder bowled forward, only to realize the enormity of what he was offering. Wait. Her face closed down a moment later as said realization soured. What do we have to give you? Naruto stilled at her side, ready to act. Ozpin smiled. Nothing. Bullshit. Her brow furrowed, even as Crow chortled. People don't give things away for free. You must want something. A beat of silence passed through the office, broken only by the sound of clicking gears. Ozpin sighed into it at last. If I had to name something, it would be this. A lone finger rose to elucidate her. I wish for you. Aha. She knew it was too good to be true. To live. Naruto guffawed. That's it. Quite. The headmaster favored them with a fatherly smile. I wish for the two of you to live long and successful lives. I wish for you to attend Beacon someday, to master your powers here and make friends. He bowled on before they could interrupt. And when your time comes, I wish that you both die together in bed at a ripe old age, surrounded by your children and their children, and their children's children. Naruto sputtered at that, and Cinder felt herself blush down to the very roots of her hair, but he wasn't yet done with them. In short. He spread his arms wide. I wish for you to be all that you can be. Cinder wrinkled her nose at him in mild confusion. You really are an odd old wizard. I'll say, Naruto muttered. Anybody ever tell you you're a little crazy? Pro sighed. Might have gone a bit too far there, Oz. Ozpin guffawed at that, a rare genuine sound. Forgive me, I'm simply terribly excited. He offered the two of them a hand. Shall we begin? I can say with utmost confidence that I have made more mistakes than any man, woman, or child alive. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a good man. Perhaps I used to be, once. Despite this, you still wish to learn from me. Very well. Your first lesson will be a simple one. Dodge. That is all. If you can dodge my cane, you can dodge a grim. Ozpin. Learning a lesson. Her time was now. Cinder knew this was her chance. Her moment, the one she'd been searching for, waiting for at long last. Long had she waited. Long had she prepared. Tonight the young maiden would finally put her plan into action. No one would be able to stop her. By the time they realized what she intended, it would be far too late. Ha! Fools. They'd regret underestimating her. Wahaha. It wasn't what it sounded like. Really. It wasn't. If Naruto was going to have secret training, then so was she. Simple as that. Night after night he'd been ferried to Beacon by Bullhead, and each time he'd return utterly exhausted. Well. Tonight she'd start her own training. See how he liked that? She wasn't trying to make him jealous or anything. No. Surely not. Not at all. Her shadow slipped across the walls, dancing with movement as she crept out a room, then into the hall proper. The house lay still in slumber, not a soul aware of her little escapade. Good. Yang she could escape, but little Ruby and Ilia wouldn't let their big sis be if they knew she was up and about. She just had to make it to the door and she'd be home free. Cinder crept down the stairs, taking them two at a time in her haste. A step creaked under her heel and she froze with a furious hiss, half expecting an adult to come barreling down the stairs after her. Any moment now Uncle Crow or Taeyang would catch on, and then she'd be caught. Cinder looked left. Cinder then looked right. Cinder didn't see a soul in sight. Slowly, carefully, she eased her foot back and crept forward. Say what you would about Taeyang, but he slept like a log at night. And why wouldn't he? Only a fool would dare attack a hunter family, least of all one with children. Patch was a tight-knit community full of hunters. Anyone fool enough to strike here would be lucky to get an open casket funeral. Ah, but there was the door. Objective in sight. 3 steps ahead. 2, now. 1. Her hand closed around the handle and slotted in her key. The latch turned with nary a sound, sending a vicious little thrill of pride through her. Ha! Mission accomplished. She was home free. Once she made it outside she could find a nice secluded place to train, and no one would be the wiser. Big sis. A tiny, sleepy voice called behind her. Where are you going? Cinder froze just shy of opening the door. A proverbial deer in the headlights. Must not look back. She absolutely mustn't look back over her shoulder. She knew who lurked there. To look was to doom herself. Precisely what the enemy wanted. If she gave an inch now, they'd take a yard later. She just knew it. Mustn't lose her nerve. Mustn't be defeated. She would not fall to such. She refused. She was Cinder Fall. Spring Maiden. She would never, ever succumb to such silly sentiment as this. Did I do something bad? Another, softer, more plaintive whisper sent a shiver through her. Is that why you're leaving? Arg. It was like kicking a puppy. A cute silver-eyed puppy. Not leaving Ruby. She muttered through pursed lips, glaring golden daggers at the door. Just going out. I'll be back in the morning. Oh. A pause and then. Whatcha doing? Curses. She couldn't resist. Cinder spun around. Looked down. Sure enough she found Ruby Rose beaming up at her and a less than pleased Yang with her. Ilia was huddled behind her. Can we come with you? We want to train, too. Cinder felt the night slipping away from her. Her scheme ruined. Lasted all. Maybe a little delay wouldn't hurt. But only for tonight. Nothing more. Ozpin tapped his cane on the bedrock. Again. Naruto dragged himself upright, clutching his ribs. Ruthless bastard. Not ruthless my boy. The headmaster of Beacon planted both hands on his weapon and favored him with a bemused smile. Merely pragmatic. You asked for this training in the first place, and so training you shall receive in spades. Now dodge. He barely got an arm up in time. The moment he did, Ozpin struck again and again, piercing his guard frivolous ease to strike his chin. Pain sparked. Blue eyes flashed red. When he tried to summon a shadow clone, that cane flitted out again, slapping his hands aside. No time for seals. Only pure hand-to-hand. It was maddening. Nearly all he could do to defend himself, let alone counter. Back and forth they raged, striking wildly at one another. Felt more like Oz was the one doing the attacking at that. Bloody Wizard was merciless. His cane didn't just hit hard, it hit fast. By the sage woe betide unto you if you couldn't block or get out the way in time. Because he was going to barrel right through you like no tomorrow. He'd seen the man punk holes through buildings with that weapon. Felt like he was doing the same to him. In truth, Naruto found the ceaseless assault somewhat refreshing. Tai and Crow always pulled their punches at the last instant. Softened their blows, you know. Maybe they were afraid to hurt him or Cinder. Wasn't their fault. They were good people. Maybe too good. Nothing wrong with being good in a world full of madmen and monsters. But Ozpin wasn't a good person. He showed no such mercy. Of course he didn't. He told him not to. He'd been both a knight and a king, a criminal, even a killer in one of his past lives. When one lived as long as he did, one accumulated a vast wealth of experience. Naruto needed that experience. Had to be strong. Had to get stronger. Not just for him and Cinder, but for Ilia and Ruby and Yang, everyone he wanted to protect. His concentration snapped as the wizard's cane struck a particularly sensitive spot in his right arm just below the elbow. It drooped uselessly. That would be your ulnar nerve. Ozpin elucidated. Do try to protect it. Why you? The cane flicked out again and he retaliated in kind. A torrent of 9 barbed chakra chains burst from his back, forcing the wizard to give ground or find himself skewered on the spoder, so had been his intent. Imagine his surprise then, when Ozpin simply tanked the hits on his aura and waded in, deflecting them with ease. Good, good. He commended, hopping over one in a nimble bound. Trust your instincts. I'll show you instinct. One such plucky chain got lucky. It managed to wrap around the haft of the headmaster's cane and yank it up. There. Ozpin tittered and whipped him into the ground, chains and all. Oh. He braced himself for a finishing blow, but it never came. That callous cane mere poked the back of his head. A valid tactic. He looked up from where he lay to find the old man gazing down upon him. But flawed. Where did you go wrong? The answer seemed obvious. You're heavier than me. Yes, but you settled for trying to disarm me. He pouted. You said to trust my instincts. Ah, but did I tell you to rely on them overmuch? A hand was offered and he clasped it, letting himself be hoisted to his feet. I don't recall such. Naruto pursed his lips. Blasted. Why did he have to get the last word in? He couldn't even bring himself to hate the man. Ozpin was just so damn driven. A bit mysterious at times, and perhaps he played his cards closer to his chest than he really should, but at the end of the day he genuinely wanted what was best for humanity. And if that meant thrashing him up, down and sideways until he could fight properly, so be it. Their goals aligned. That alone let the man share some secrets with him. Here, let me have a look at you. Ozpin leaned down to squint at him. Already healed. A hand tilted his head to one side. You had a bruise there before. Remarkable. Naruto grimaced, rubbing his ribs. Well, if it means Cinder won't see my injuries. Yes, I'm sure Miss Fall would appreciate me bringing you back in one piece. He recognized the change of subject for what it was, but couldn't stop him in time. You've made admirable progress these last few months, as I'm sure you're well aware, but you could be so much more than this. His expression shifted, hardening a little. You have great power within you, Naruto. Why do you not use it? The blonde winced. That may not be a good idea. The fox and I aren't on good terms. That was putting it lightly. He still didn't know how to deal with the furball. Sometimes it felt like the fox wanted to help him. At others, well. The less said about that the better. He knew the impasse couldn't last. Mighty though he was, he wouldn't get much further if he constantly had to guard himself against attacks from within. Something had to give. He wasn't sure who would. Him or the fox. Then it's high time we change that. No doubt sensing his mood, Ozpin collapsed his cane and offered him a hand. Let us have a word with your friend. Perhaps I can convince him to aid you. Naruto recoiled, recalling his last slip. Bad idea. All the bad ideas. Trust me, you can't reason with someone like him. Best I can do is point him in a given direction. Trust in me. His mentor patted his head. I may be lesser than what I once was, but I'm still capable of a few tricks. Observe. Quick as can be, his grip shifted. Ozpin flicked 2 fingers and touched his forehead. Naruto opened his mouth to protest, only for the world to blur. His eyes rolled back in the head and reality fell away. And he saw him. You can't change your fate, Cinder. You will always be a monster. Burning bright. The gods were crazy. That, or they had a twisted sense of humor. Or maybe, just maybe, they were assholes who enjoyed watching others suffer. Cinder certainly thought so. If only because today held all the makings of a bad joke. It had begun with breakfast, as things often did. The morning meal was lovely, of course, fluffy golden pancakes drizzled in butter and syrup with a side of strawberries and orange juice besides. She adored them. Just as much as the effort that went into the meal. It was Naruto's absence from said breakfast that rankled her. He's not here. She glowered down at her half-eaten meal, grinding her fork against the plate. Again. Little Yang scooted her chair closer to her and patted her arm with a tiny hand. I'm sure he'll be home soon. Yeah. Ruby seconded, mirroring her big sister. He's probably on his way back from Beacon right now. Cinder felt her temper spark, golden eyes flashing with fire. I appreciate the sentiment, but… Ilia tilted her head. Dude. She saw less and less of Naruto these days. He was always off with Ozpin or Crow or someone and seldom here. Now there was even talk of them making a weapon for him. Meanwhile, she spent most of her days here on patch. Hiding. In safety perhaps, but hiding nevertheless. All because she couldn't control her power. Even now it flickered and seethed with her emotions, and while she could direct it in broad swathes, the finer points of control eluded her. She needed to be better. She had to be. It felt like she was going mad. 1 year of this. 1 year and Naruto was growing by leaps and bounds. 1 year and it didn't feel like she was any closer now to mastery than she'd been before. Cinder. Taeyeon's voice rang from the living room. Hurry and finish your breakfast. Glinda's here for you. Of course she was. Goodwitch always arrived early. Heaving a sigh, she polished off the last of her meal and shoved her chair back. Yang and Ruby must have seen the anger in her eyes. Because the little girls exchanged a glance with Ilia. Cinder saw it. No, she hissed. Don't you dare. They dared. Take us with you. As one, the younger girls launched themselves off their chairs and gathered around her, squeezing her for all they were worth. Cinder melted into it with a sigh. Might as well. They'd never let her go otherwise. She was fond of Yang and Ruby. She'd sooner die than speak it aloud, but she adored them. Ilia as well. The way they clung to her, wanted her attention, even calling her big sister. Taeyang, well. The big brute was like the father she'd never had, puns and all. It warmed her fractured heart. But it wasn't enough. She didn't feel free here. Because she had training of her own with Miss Goodwitch. Long, grueling training that took her away from them, that Naruto couldn't help with, that kept her apart from him. Sometimes she almost found herself hating Patch. She really, truly did. Just thinking of it made her feel guilty. These people were protecting her and Naruto, and here she was sulking because things weren't going her way. Just how childish could she be? But it wasn't fair. He was progressing too quickly. Leaving her behind. Couldn't they see that? Time to let go Ruby. She nudged her first, trying to pry the youngest girl off her. You're going to make me late. The stakes were made. Nope. The silver-eyed girl clung to her torso all the tighter. Cinder sighed. You cannot simply say that and expect to win every time. Yang took her cue and latched onto her left leg. Nope. Cinder's face absolutely twitched. Ilia, be reasonable. No use. She grabbed her right leg. Nope. This was her life now. Damn Naruto to the darkest pit for making her suffer through this. The least he could do was be here to suffer with her. Fine. Shuffling footsteps dragged Cinder and her baggage out the kitchen. TCH. The girls were heavier than they looked. They clung on like limpets all the while, never once slackening their grip. Each step was torment. Their muffled giggles didn't make her smile. No. Nay. Never. She'd burn anyone who said otherwise. Sure enough, she found her waiting there. Linda Goodwitch was the pinnacle of power and poise. Always calm, cool, and collected. She was everything Cinder wanted to be. She didn't need to speak to Kouyu. A single glance from her could strike fear into even the darkest heart. Hers was a cold beauty. Untouchable. Unreachable. Unmovable. Cinder wanted that. No, she needed that. The ability to command others with a look, the kind of charisma that made people want to listen to you, follow you, obey you. Crow had once said she'd be a raving beauty when she was older, that men and women alike would line up to do her bidding. Looking at Miss Goodwitch, she could only hope. She could never be that cold, never truly be ice. But she could be fire. By contrast, Taeyang Xiaolong was warm sunshine. Greeting her with a smile and a bemused look as he beheld the pesky passengers she carried in tow. Well, he rumbled a laugh. What have we here? Cinder knew they weren't truly related, not really, despite the misconception perpetuated by Crow, but she could see a shadow of what Naruto might become someday. She liked what she saw. Strong, tall, able to lift her spirits with the slightest of smiles. It made her miss him all the more. Linda's stern green eyes alighted upon her at the last, narrowing behind horn-rimmed glasses. You've eaten, then. Good. Come along. Cinder raised a leg and tried to shake Yang off. No dice. Girls, Taeyang chided, let your big sister go. Oh. Boo. No fun. Thane tousled her hair as she shrugged on her satchel. Knock 'em dead, kid. I'll have lunch ready when you get back. And Naruto? Cinder hated herself for the wavering words. If he shows up early, I'll send him your way. The blonde brawler winked. Promise. Bidwitch tutted at him crossly. Tiang Xiaolong, you will do nothing of the sort. Her training is very dangerous, blah blah blah. He chortled softly. Cinder's missing her sweetheart. Let them have some time together. Cinder felt her face burn red. Hey. It not like that, you shitty old man. He flicked her forehead, drawing a yelp from her. Language, young lady. Ozpin handed him a small box. You're certain about this? Naruto curled his hand around it. Sure am. I wish you luck then. Do be careful. Are you prepared? Cinder huffed a little. As I'll ever be. Just as before, Miss Goodwitch had led her to the same spot. A little grove nestled off the coast, tucked into the mountainside. Safe. Secluded. Secure. It was all of these things, or so Glinda claimed. Grand walls of stone prevented anyone seeing them out on the sea, and likewise the large trees afforded them cover from any aerial observer, while providing countless places to hide. From here, one could see someone approaching miles out and react accordingly. It was, in a word, perfect if one ignored just how claustrophobic it could be. The benevolent trees that provided precious cover also blotted out most of the sunlight itself, forcing her to train in suffocating shadow. Glinda often made use of that very darkness for her own ends, utilizing her versatile semblance to hurl large boulders at her, forcing her to either burn them away or dodge outright. Sometimes she got particularly creative and launched entire trees her way. She dearly hoped that wouldn't be the case today. She had neither the time nor the patience for it. Her temper was already dangling by a thread. So? She scuffed a shoe in the dirt, trying not to look surly and failing miserably. What are we doing today? More dodging. You are going to summon fire. Miss Goodwitch adjusted her glasses, flawless as ever. And work on your self-control. Cinder felt her face screw up in a grimace. Control. It was always about control, wasn't it? She was sick of being controlled. Blasted adults. Hadn't they been children once? Did they even remember what it was like? Miss Goodwitch likely didn't. She'd probably been like the Sinsul, always. Lind swept her weapon against a towering oak, producing a harsh crack. Begin. Fine. Fire it was. She could do that. She wiped a stray bead of sweat from her brow, closed her eyes, and raised her arms. Smoldering embers rose around her. High above the trees creaked as the wind began to pick up. As always, the maiden power came to her easily. Too easily. Therein lay the problem. She struggled not to channel it outward as a novice might, but to control it. It wanted to be free. To rush out of her body and annihilate her enemies. She just had to let it out. Not a flood, but a trickle, a silent stream she could control, rather than the raging river it wished to be. Today, she did. Flashfire flared at her fingertips, erupting forth in a cone of wicked napalm. It struck a tree and barreled onward, charring it to ash. A dam burst somewhere inside Cinder, and power rushed out. Distantly she heard Glinda shout at her. She couldn't make out the words, couldn't hear her over the roar of the flames. Out and out it rushed, until her eyes watered and she felt weak in the knees. Goodwitch was shouting at her in earnest now, a sharp startled cry. Cinder ignored her with a euphoric smile. How could something that felt this good be so wrong? Cinder. The spell shattered and her legs buckled, dragging her down. Cinder caught herself with both hands, face flushed. There. How's that for power? Glinda gazed out on the blasted wasteland and sighed at the scorched stone. So much for the first. I do hope you're happy. I'm not. I want to train at Beacon. She lifted her chin to glare up at her mentor. With Naruto. I'm sure you do. A wry smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. But you cannot. This argument again. I'm not afraid of the fox. You should be. Miss Goodwitch chastised her. The creature within him is unpredictable. Until he learns to control it, we cannot risk your safety. So you'll just keep us apart until then. Her hands balled into fists at her sides. That's not fair. An indiscernible emotion flashed across Glinda's face. Life is seldom fair, child. This is for the best. You'll thank us for this someday. Her scroll rang. Cinder didn't look away. Her mentor met her stare stoically, refusing to budge as the phone bleated on. And then. I have to take this. She raised the device to her ear and walked away. Don't go far. Yes. She spoke into the scroll. Ozpin. Is everything. She was still speaking when Cinder struck. She flung herself backward, not forward. With a gust of wind, launching herself out into the charred forest. Glinda made an annoyed noise but didn't pursue. Even as she vanished into the smoke. Why? Did they have a means of tracking her somehow? Had they chipped her? Were they that confident? No, don't think about that. Run. Get away. Smog stung at her eyes as she hurtled into the gloom. She wasn't sure how long she ran for. Minutes. Hours. Time was as hazy for her as the smoke. Finally, she could run no further. Her lungs failed her and her body soon thereafter. Wasted and gasping for air, hands on her knees, she leaned against a tree. An angry fist thumped it. Fire flashed up the bark and burned it to dust. Damn it. Damn her. Damn them all for acting like this. She just wanted to be free. Was that so wrong? You will never find what you seek here, child. Cinder pivoted, rounding on the voice. She immediately wished she hadn't. An awful grin materialized within the smoke. It looked like some mad cross between a sphere and a tentacled creature, the latter swimming with dark depths as it bobbed in the air. A woman's voice emanated from it once more, a soft and crooning sigh, the sound an amused matron might make toward a small child. The soulless sound sent a shiver racing up Cinder's spine. Fire flared in her hand. And who are you? Think of me as a friend. They will never accept you, not as you are. Surely realize this. Her brow furrowed. You didn't answer my question. Who are you? As I said, a friend. We shall meet again. A gust of wind swept into the smoke. Cinder. She turned back. The strange creature was gone. All that remained was a pile of ash. Wait. Her eyes widened. She recognized the voice and whipped right round. Naruto. Her partner looked tired. He had one arm thrust forward, having dispelled the worst of the smoke with his chakra. She didn't fail to notice the ugly bruise on one cheek and dark circles under his eyes. He'd been pushing himself hard. Maybe too hard. Harder than her, certainly. She winced even as she thought it. How did you find me? Sensed ya. He lowered his arm to squint at her. Who were you talking to? She looked away from him with a huff. No one. He frowned. Sounded like someone. I said it was no one. Alright. He raised both hands to deflect her anger. You were talking to yourself. Fine. I get it. A tan hand reached into his pack and emerged with a small plastic container. She saw the paired ham sandwiches within and her stomach growled. Taeyang sent me with these. Had she been gone that long? How's the training going? Cinder quirked about toward the burnt forest. Back to him, now. Fair. He grinned and offered her a sandwich. Want one? No. Her stomach whined anew. He grinned at her, that impish little smile that made her heart flutter. Any other way I can help? How can you? Her emotions strained at their leash. You spend all your time training with Ozpin and not nearly enough with me. He winced. Hey, that's not fair. I'm doing this so I can protect you. I don't want to be protected. She rounded on him. That wasn't what I meant. No. Cinder spat at the ground, not liking the wounded look in his eyes. Certainly sounded like it. I don't want anyone to hurt you. He stowed the sandwich box back in his pack and offered her his hand. I want to stand by your side. Ugh. He looked away when she didn't budge. I'm really making a mess of this, aren't I? Cinder whirled away. She knew it wasn't his fault, but she was just so angry. Why couldn't they be normal? Why couldn't they live normal lives? It wasn't fair. Look, he laid a hand on her shoulder, trying to rally. There's nothing wrong with a little weakness. Let me help. She rounded on him. I am not weak. Fire flashed. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Naruto grunted and staggered back, clutching at his right eye. Cinder froze. Saw the seething red blisters on his cheek. She'd burnt his face. Taken an eye. Her world shattered into 1,000 pieces. Naruto. She reached a trembling hand his way. Does it hurt? I'm sorry. She'd burnt him. No, I didn't mean to. Her hands trembled. She looked down at them, at the flames smoldering within. This was what she was. A monster. His fingers curled around hers. She winced and tried to pull back. Stop. I'll burn you. It's alright. He rasped. Everything is alright. Look at me. As she did, the angry welts faded, replaced by healthy pink skin. His eye smoldered back into place, the wound healing as she looked on. See? I'm fine. You're fine as you are. Don't worry. She hiccuped. He patted her head. Good. I burned you. Words rushed out of her. You were hurt. Now, just calm down. He soothed. I know you're upset, you wooed. No such luck. She dove on him, landed in his lap, rode him to the floor, and bawled her eyes out. What if Naruto was godlike being in rwby harem? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.